Aquatic elves, also known as sea elves, water elves, and Alu Tel Kasir in their native tongue, are a subrace of elves specialized for underwater living and breathing. They possess deep green skin with brown mottling and stripes, or blue skin adorned with white stripes and patches. They have a robust and tall stature with elongated limbs. Their thick skin provides insulation against the cold depths, enabling them to remain comfortable in temperatures just above freezing. Notably, their fingers and toes are roughly twice as long as those of humans, with substantial webbing between them. The most prominent feature of aquatic elves is their visible gills along their necks and ribs. In comparison to their elven counterparts, aquatic elves have deeper voices and larger, heavier frames. Eye colors among their kind span turquoise, white, black, blue, green, and occasionally silver. Their hair is typically thick and somewhat coarse, with variations in texture ranging from rough to stringy. Hair colors may include shades of blue-green, emerald green, blue, black, silver, and on rare occasions red. While warriors often maintain short hair, other members of the aquatic elf community prefer to let their hair grow long and flow freely. In particular, females cultivate very long hair. Aquatic elves possess an inherent isolationist tendency, both by their inherent nature and the remote locales of their settlements, although their reclusiveness falls short of the wild elves' extreme seclusion. Trust among aquatic elves is primarily reserved for their own clan and kin, resulting in tightly knit communities. They struggle to comprehend why surface-dwelling elves fail to grasp the significance of community and alliances for survival, viewing rivalry, individualism, and factionalism as paths to demise. Despite their cautious demeanor, they harbor a profound curiosity, with coastal aquatic elves frequently devoting substantial time to clandestinely observing land-bound races. Among elven subraces, aquatic elves exhibit the least affinity for magic and possess fewer innate magical talents. However, their deep connection to their environment surpasses that of other elves. They can discern subtle shifts in water currents and perceive underwater sounds imperceptible to surface dwellers. Additionally, their vision surpasses that of surface races. In low-light conditions, they can see twice as far as surface elves, and can distinguish individual soldiers in an army up to a mile away. Like their forest-dwelling counterparts, they adeptly conceal themselves in kelp and seaweed, with their movement unhindered amidst aquatic flora. Because of their gills, aquatic elves possess amphibious capabilities. However, the duration they can spend away from water without adverse effects varies significantly. This safe period can span from a few minutes to hours, a day, or even up to a week. Beyond these limits, consequences also differ. Some may begin to suffocate on land, while others may experience a loss of vitality due to dehydration, but can otherwise remain on land indefinitely, provided that they spend an hour soaking in water daily. Even within the same community, individuals known as land walkers exhibit varying capacities for breathing air, with some showing no limitations on their time away from water at all. In Cormonthir, aquatic elves employ clerical magic to extend their surface-dwelling time. While some aquatic elves struggle with breathing fresh water and quickly become fatigued, others are unaffected but do require saltwater immersion for true recovery. Predominantly residing in the Sea of Fallen Stars and the Great Sea, aquatic elves also establish small settlements along Faerun's western coast. Typically, they select locations in tranquil waters supporting coral reefs or seaweed forests. Settlement populations typically range from 100 to 400 inhabitants, although larger and smaller communities do exist. They operate as largely self-sufficient settlements, engaging in rare trades for luxuries and sustaining themselves through kelp farming and fishing. Communication between communities primarily relies on wandering heralds conveying oral messages. They spend generally 75% of their time within shallow waters less than 150 feet from the surface, although they can safely descend to depths around 600 feet. The pinnacle of aquatic elven civilization is exemplified by the empire Arel Malar, which once held dominion over all the races inhabiting the Sea of Fallen Stars, centered around the city of Mal, known as the Coral Capital. This empire thrived for nearly 18,000 years, imparting magical knowledge and techniques for cultivating kelp, coral, and pearls to other denizens of the inner sea, which became fundamental to other undersea societies. However, the empire met its demise when Mal was obliterated by the unforeseen consequences of a high magic act, resulting in the immediate deaths of many inhabitants, including the leader of the empire, known as the Coronal, and many additional aquatic elves died as a result of the ensuing collapse. In the wake of the fall of Arselmalir, the kingdoms of the Inner Sea emerged, including Naramir, near the Dragonmere Lake, and Selu-Marar, near the Dragon Reach. These kingdoms were established on the remnants of Arselmalir. A colony named Faina Suor exists on the continental slopes east of the Star Mantle, with several small settlements scattered among the reefs near the fang of western Aglarond. In the expanse of the Great Sea, the aquatic elven city of Nimalar stands southeast of Ormpe in the center of the Bay of Golden Water. Off the coast of Tethir and the Trackless Sea, several small villages dot the shoreline alongside the kingdom of Alucambol Sunvaye and its capital city of Thunderfoam, situated north of Evermeet. Lumathiashe, a grand city boasting a population of several thousand aquatic elves, thrives off the shores of Evermeet, along with several other smaller settlements, serving as an underwater army for that island. Similarly, the aquatic elves of Deepwater Harbor fulfill a comparable role for the city of Waterdeep. In Cormanthur, the notable elven aquatic city of Hyaline resides within Lake Sember. Deep within the depths of Lake Dinishir in Icewind Dale, a scarcely seen community of aquatic elves dwells. Their extreme seclusion has led many to regard them as little more than local myths aimed at attracting traders and settlers to the region. However, in the year of the Cold Soul, 1281, one of the lake's aquatic elves did establish contact with a group of adventurers and a fisher in the town of East Haven. Aquatic elven society centers around family and clan structures. While noble families and monarchs hold positions of authority, their rule is characterized by a benevolent and lenient approach rather than a strict authoritarianism. Although women are capable of holding positions of power, aquatic elven society predominantly adheres to patriarchal norms, with inheritance typically passing through the eldest son. The notion of private property is largely absent within aquatic elven culture. Personal belongings carried by an individual elf are considered theirs, but all other possessions belong to the community collectively, especially tools, weapons, and other items of practical use. Any aquatic elf may access these communal resources as needed, irrespective of previous ownership, although individuals are permitted to maintain relatively private living spaces. Consequently, theft is a rare occurrence. Monarchs, however, often possess large, elaborate residences with restricted access and personal belongings, yet they typically exhibit generosity, reflecting the values of their own people. While the practice of freely borrowing items is exclusive to members of the community, outsiders, particularly surface dwellers, are closely monitored to prevent the exploitation of their cultural norms. Aquatic elves hold vows and promises in the highest regard, viewing them as sacred commitments that must be fulfilled at any cost. Should an aquatic elf perish before completing a sworn task, the responsibility falls upon their kin to see it through. Any insinuation that an aquatic elf may fail to honor their word is deeply offensive to them. Conversely, promises made by non-elves are met with skepticism, as aquatic elves recognize that other races may not uphold commitments after death, and only fellow elves possess the lifespan necessary to fulfill significant obligations. Aquatic elves typically opt for minimal attire or none at all, often fashioning clothing from underwater plants. These garments feature intricate designs in hues of black, brown, and green. While noble aquatic elves in the Sea of Fallen Stars historically wear clothing more frequently, stemming from the transformation of many surface elves into aquatic elves, this tradition is waning, with noble elves primarily donning diaphanous silken robes to signify their status. They possess their own distinct language, closely related to Standard Elvish, but notably unique, incorporating elements reminiscent of dolphin communication, including squeals and clicks. They struggle to converse in surface languages. Various linguistic preferences exist among different groups of aquatic elves, with Elvish and Aquan being widely spoken, along with the common tongue among coastal dwellers. Those residing within the Sea of Fallen Stars are familiar with the trade language of Cerusian. Additionally, they may have knowledge of languages spoken by other aquatic races, including their mortal enemies, the Sahuagin. Nobles and adventurous individuals who venture from their home settlements are typically literate, while commoners often lack the skill. Aquatic elves are renowned as the least magically inclined among the elven races. Occurring only once every 2 or 3 generations, the emergence of arcane talent among them is rare, akin to its occurrence in dwarf communities rather than in human or elven societies. Those gifted with spellcasting abilities dedicate their extensive lifespans to rigorous study, becoming exceptionally skilled practitioners. In remote communities, the magically inclined among them are constrained to learning from a handful of elder magic users and scarce written resources. Notably, the aquatic elves of Lake Sember possess the means to send individuals with magical potential to study under the renowned mages of Mithranor. The scarcity of arcane magic among aquatic elves has sparked speculation, with rumors suggesting the involvement of the drow in depriving them of this ability, contributing to the deep-seated animosity the aquatic elves harbor toward them. In certain regions, a minority of aquatic elves around Evermeet are former sun or moon elves transformed into aquatic elves, retaining their magical abilities from their previous forms. In contrast, the aquatic elves of the Sea of Fallen Stars boast a significant number of mages and high elven mages over the centuries. This prevalence of magical talent is attributed to the influx of surface elves seeking refuge from the Crown Wars and the fall of Mithranor, who were transformed into aquatic elves through either the Sashelas glass or the high magic ritual of Achfen Telkes. Sculpture serves as the predominant art form among aquatic elves, given the likelihood of other mediums being swiftly degraded by water. Elaborately carved reliefs adorn the walls of most cities, while statues are commonplace. Aquatic elves also exhibit a strong musical inclination. Their robust voices carry further than anticipated underwater, and their resonant songs evoke the soothing tranquility of the ocean, reminiscent of whale song and dolphin vocalizations. These compositions are often lengthy and evoke the serene ambience of the sea. Bards are prevalent within their societies. Due to their aquatic lifestyle, they produce distinct crafts compared to their surface counterparts. They have devised a variety of waterproof magical items and a unique system of underwater writing utilizing cured shark skin or thick seaweed and highly viscous ink. Metal usage is limited, as forging underwater is nearly impossible and metals quickly corrode. However, gold, resistant to corrosion, is commonly shaped into jewelry. Most aquatic elven items are crafted from materials such as stone, coral, shells, and animal substances like bone, narwhal horn, turtle shell, shark skin, or chitin. They often fashion so-called tridents of serenity, magical weapons capable of subduing Sahuagin near the wielder and commonly issued to elves patrolling the territorial borders. They also fabricate longbows equipped with bowstrings made from special kelp, dampening vibrations and turbulence to maintain momentum underwater. Chitinous armor is frequently employed, while those in the inner sea don silverweave armor treated by local Tritons or Shalarin, typically consisting of armored leggings to preserve mobility. Some evil aquatic elves fashion armor from shark skin and teeth. Sea elves maintain an extreme level of isolationism, with some individuals completely unaware of the existence of the surface world. Even interaction with other underwater races is kept at a distance, irrespective of alignment. They fiercely oppose evil races and see little value in mingling with shorter-lived neighbors, even if they share similar alignments. This isolation extends to interactions with other elven subraces, although when necessary, aquatic elves prefer contact with their surface kin over others. Some among their kind, such as the aquatic elves of Lumathea Shai, hold a deep regard for surface elves, appreciating the limited contact they maintain, albeit primarily keeping to themselves. In contrast, the aquatic elves of Hyaline and Lake Sember have adopted a less secluded approach, recognizing the importance of exposing their children to the surface world for survival. These elves regularly engage with the elves of Semberholm and send their children to schools within the city, fostering friendly relations with the local treants. Overall, aquatic elves perceive little distinction between surface elven subraces, regarding the sun elves as near equals, believing they serve a comparable role in civilization and the preservation of elven tradition. They harbor an intense animosity towards Sahuagin and sharks, considering them their greatest enemies and attacking them on sight wherever possible. Occasionally, aquatic elven societies are infiltrated by mutated Sahuagin known as Malenti, which bear a striking resemblance to aquatic elves. It's believed that normal Sahuagin spawn Malenti only in close proximity to elven communities, leading some Tritons to theorize a shared origin between the two races, with Sahuagin possibly being the result of drow experiments on aquatic elven captives. However, aquatic elves vehemently deny this notion, with many questioning even the existence of Malenti altogether. They exhibit a great caution around human fishermen, as they are often mistaken for Sahuagin when caught in nets, leading to fatal consequences. Despite maintaining neutral relations with Merfolk and Lokatha, aquatic elves coexist harmoniously with Tritons and marine storm giants in some settlements. However, relations with Shalarin are more complex, marked by attempts to drive them out of the inner sea following unprovoked attacks that devastated the Shalarin population, leading to tensions and war. The Nantar alliance serves to improve relations between aquatic elves, Merfolk, Shalarin, and Morkoth, particularly in combating common threats and restoring Myth Nantar. Half-sea elves are exceedingly rare due to the infrequency of interactions between aquatic elves and humans, coupled with the limited interest of aquatic elves in such relationships. Moreover, the ability of aquatic half-elves to breathe underwater varies, often leading to disconnection from their sea culture. Despite this, some aquatic elves remain involved in their children's lives, occasionally visiting them when they venture into the water, while they reproduce occasionally with surface elves, resulting in offspring resembling the subrace of their surface parent with a greenish tinge to their hair. These individuals possess fully amphibious traits, including hidden gills and the ability to breathe air indefinitely. As a result, they can integrate fully into aquatic elven society, particularly if their mothers are aquatic elves. They occasionally take in water genasi children for upbringing, although in general, genasi harbor a secret pity towards sea elves for their limited ability to leave water for extended periods of time. Some water genasi, particularly those who serve deep Sashelas, function as intermediaries between aquatic elves and their surface-dwelling relatives. While there are plain-touch sea elves resembling water genasi, purportedly descended from the servants of deep Sashelas, no recent instances of such individuals have been reported. Dolphins hold a special place in the hearts of aquatic elves, with whom they share the closest bond. It's estimated that any sizable group of aquatic elves is accompanied by dolphins. Whales are also revered by them, with many settlements strategically situated along whale migration routes to facilitate regular interaction with these majestic creatures. Young aquatic elves often embark on year-long pilgrimages with whale pods. Hippocampi and giant seahorses are also favored mounts among their kind, while numerous other marine creatures are tamed and utilized as mounts, beasts of burden, and pets. According to their legends, their ancestors once lived on land, serving as part of an armada caught in a storm, and were saved by an unidentified goddess. Clerical magic holds greater prevalence among aquatic elves. While deep Sashelas, the elven sea god of knowledge and creation, commands the most reverence, Corlan Larethian is still honored as the father of their race, albeit to a lesser extent, with other members of the Seldarine receiving minimal acknowledgement. Being chosen as a priest of deep Sashelas is considered a significant honor within aquatic elven families. Temples dedicated to the god in the inner sea are typically constructed from living coral, while those in the Great Sea often take the form of sprawling structures crafted from natural stone and other minerals resembling seashells. These temples serve as cultural hubs for aquatic elves, fulfilling both secular and spiritual functions. Trishina, a dolphin goddess and deep Sashela's primary consort, is also venerated by aquatic elves, particularly those residing within the Sea of Fallen Stars. The amicable relationship between these two deities contributes to the harmonious bond between aquatic elves and dolphins. Additionally, some aquatic elves worship the water primordial Istishia, while the Marl subrace pays homage to the Umberlee. Certain Kraken priests found near the Purple Rocks are of aquatic elven descent. Deep Sashelas currently resides in Arvandor, although rumors suggest he also holds domain near the shores of the Moonshae Isles in a place called Tir Faoi Thoin. His avatar resembles a sea elf, with skin and eyes tinted blue-green. When appearing to his followers, Deep Sashelas manifests in three distinct forms: a distant sparkle of light guiding worshippers to safety, a small vent emitting air bubbles used to warn sea elf communities of impending danger, and a dolphin-shaped vision crafted from water with a silver radiance employed for communication with sea elf settlements. The god's influence extends throughout Toril as he endeavors to foster positive relations with underwater races beyond sea elves. Charismatic and skilled in mediation, he seeks to maintain harmony among diverse aquatic communities. In his magical practices, Sashelas favors water-based spells, abstaining from the use of fire magic entirely. Despite his participation, he seldom intervenes directly in combat through his avatar, except in cases involving Sokola or Panzuriel. He also actively opposes Demogorgon and Dagon. His relationship with the goddess Mystra is amicable but largely indifferent, and he generally disregards other deities associated with magic. As a member of the elfin pantheon known as the Seldarine, he maintains positive relations with its other members, directly answering to the head, Corlan Larethian. Deep Sashelas is also the leader of his own pantheon, the Asathalfinare, which encompasses most good-aligned aquatic deities. He primarily receives worship from the Sea Elves, serving as their patron deity and creator. Each Sea Elf settlement bears a temple resembling a massive shell dedicated to the Dolphin Prince. Occasionally, individuals from other races seek him as a patron due to their affinity for water magic. Around 1371, many Shalarin had embraced worship of Deep Sashelas, although none are known to hold positions within the clergy. Among all his followers, the use of the shadow weave is strictly prohibited. The clergy, known collectively as the Delphions, encompass various ranks, including the impure, which are novices, the bathed, which are acolytes, and the Delphites, which are the high priests. Priests and druids offer prayers to Deep Sashelas during the high tide nearest to midday, serving as mediators between the sea and land races. Trishina serves as the goddess of dolphins and is the consort of Deep Sashelas. She fosters a strong bond between aquatic elves and dolphins. She possesses the ability to assume the form of either a female dolphin or young, attractive sea elf, seamlessly transitioning between the two at will. Her humanoid form bears resemblance to the sleek-skinned Shalarin. She embodies benevolence and peace, holding an optimistic belief in the potential for redemption through love and kindness. She readily aids those in need, whether from the sea or land, and discourages the plundering of shipwrecks, viewing them as sacred resting places. Her clergy are pacifists, dedicating themselves wholly to safeguarding the young of all races and rescuing lives whenever possible. Many regard her as the mother goddess of the Shalarin, who, being a displaced culture, adopted her as their primary deity, referring to her as Rida Trisha. The first aquatic elves arrived in Faerun sometime around -25,000 following the migration of gold and silver elves from Faerie. They are known to be the final elven subrace to arrive in Faerun, initially inhabiting the Great Sea. Instead of establishing permanent settlements, they adopted a nomadic lifestyle to explore their new environment. Around -17,000, during the War of Three Leaves among the surface elves, many citizens of the kingdoms of Ailur, Siropir, and Nantar fled to the Sea of Fallen Stars, using an Ailuran artifact called the Sashelan Glass to transform themselves into aquatic elves. By -11,743, the aquatic elven city of Selmal was founded in the Selmal Basin, known to surface dwellers as the Vilhan Reach, becoming the capital of the kingdom of Selmalir. As the First and Second Crown Wars raged on and the Sable Wars began, more refugees came to the Inner Sea, primarily utilizing the high magic ritual of Achfen Telkes. Despite attempts to avoid involvement, conflicts with native Merfolk and Sahuagin arose as elven settlements expanded into deeper waters. With the end of the Second Crown War and the fall of Thernatar in -11,200, additional migrations to the sea occurred, leading to the establishment of aquatic elven kingdoms such as Coranthus, Tormiralir, Ulathan Reef, and Rhaenir. In -11,000, the Empire of Arsilmalir was officially established, uniting all aquatic elven kingdoms in Seros under one rule, and marking year 1 in the Arsilmalan calendar. Starting from around -10,000, aquatic elves collaborated with Merfolk and Lokatha to construct garrison towers along the Shark's Teeth Mounts. Following the guidance of the Triton cleric Persana, Lobos the Builder, and her own clerics of Deep Sashelas, these garrisons, known as the Pillars of the Trident, form the foundation of the Sharksbane Wall, established in -9,845 to defend against Sahuagin attacks. In -9,839, the First Seros War erupted, setting the Elves and Merfolk against the Sahuagin dwelling in the eastern waters. Lasting 6 years, the conflict obliterated the Sahuagin kingdom in the Trench of Lopak. Despite ongoing skirmishes with other races over the ensuing century, the completion of the Sharksbane Wall effectively entrapped the majority of the Sahuagin within the Alhambra Sea, a southeastern extension of the Sea of Fallen Stars. The Sea Elves and other allied races relentlessly hunted down any remaining Sahuagin, eradicating them from their side of the wall entirely by -8,000. In around -8,300, the aquatic elves incited a rebellion among the Lokatha slaves of the regional Kuatoa, igniting the Second Seros War. This conflict culminated in the total destruction of the Kuatoan consortiums, with their subterranean dwellings collapsing and any surviving Kuatoa pursued and slain. Around -8,000, an unnamed aquatic elven wizard unleashed an army of Tanari into Seros. Collaborating with Merfolk forces, the aquatic elves engaged the demons in battle, while high elven mages conducted a ritual binding the Tanari into a coral reef known as the Demon Reef. Around -7700, Marids and John from the Asaram Empire began settling in Salmalir, the core territory of the Ars-Salmalir Empire. Within a year, they spread across Seros, emerging as significant contenders for power alongside the Sea Elves. Despite attempts by the Elves to wage war against the genies, the depths of their settlements proved inaccessible, rendering most efforts to subdue them futile. In -7130, the Dukars, an order of wizard monks, blending martial arts with the arcane, were formally established. Originating from the elven duelist wizards, who experimented with magic amplifying corals, the Dukars initially comprised mainly aquatic elves, but began to welcome students of all races. Rapidly expanding, by -6946, they had amassed enough power to establish the Merve Alliance as an equal partner, alongside the Ars-Salmalir Empire and its vassals, uniquely exempt from swearing fealty to them. In -6676, the Golden Age of Ars-Salmalir began. Having secured peace along their borders and with the Marid states in Seros, the aquatic elves ushered in a 5,000-year era of tranquility. The empire's influence burgeoned further, following the mysterious disappearance or destruction of the Marid states, possibly at the hands of Krakens. In -3309, two of the Dukar academies fell victim to Kraken assaults. In response, they erected a mythal over their central settlement of Nantar in -3002, founding Myth Nantar and establishing a new academy. However, this arrangement necessitated Dukar graduates from this institution to pledge loyalty to the Coronal of Salmal. Around -1660, the High Mages of the Sea Elves and the Dukars joined forces to obliterate the enclaves of Deep Netheril, comprising the kingdoms of Kulmath, Whereupon, and Quialuvis, in a war called the Battle of the Three Sea Flames. They achieved this by transmuting the crystal domes above the cities into a substance that ignites upon contact with water, triggering inward explosions of such magnitude that they carved out new bays along the coastline, such as the Selgaunt Bay. In -1588, the aquatic elves endeavored to erect a mythal over Selmal, but faced repeated setbacks, leading to the erosion of the sanity of the ruling Coronal, Esselmarinth. Feeling forsaken by the Seldarine, he turned to the worship of Dagon. In -1539, Essel instigated the Third Seros War by disproportionately reacting to minor incursions by Coelinth and Scraggs, rallying them alongside the Marrow against the Empire. Although the Elves swiftly vanquished the Marrow Kingdom of Picarnus and the Ixizatchital Imperium of Ilvaniv within 5 years, discontent brewed among the Merfolk of Thalorin, prompting them to seek secession from the Empire. In response, Essel brutally quashed the rebellion, slaughtering nearly a third of the Merfolk in the Inner Sea and installing Chiron the Mad, an accomplice and devotee of Dagon, as ruler of the kingdom. Empowered by fiendish Kraken allies, Essel then turned the Dukars of Myth Nantar against their orders. Despite 20 years of tyrannical rule, Chiron met his demise in -1506, followed by Essel's demise at the hands of his own brother in -1502, marking the war's conclusion amid Seros upheaval. Vaquis Marinth, Essel's benevolent sister and a priestess of deep Sashelas, then assumed leadership as the new Coronal. During Vaquis's relatively tranquil reign, only the brief Fourth Seros War occurred. Following her demise in -1219, 3 generations of rulers ascended the throne in rapid succession. Among them, Vaquis II, or Vaquis the Dark, who rose to power in -819, stood out. Notoriously distrustful of magic users and harboring suspicion towards the Shalarin newcomers, she imposed stringent measures against them, triggering the Fifth Seros War. In a bid for support, she allied with 2 Krakens, unleashing havoc upon the peaceful Morkoth settlements of the 4 Arcana of Humbar. Ultimately, the Dukars, along with widespread backing, thwarted the Coronal and her Kraken allies, instituting a requirement for their approval of future rulers. In the year -387, a party of aquatic elves exploring the coastal shallows of the river Verire encountered green elves from Cormonthir, discovering Lake Sember and the tranquility of Semberholm. In the year -294, an aquatic elf named Luzach ascended to the position of Coronal in Selmal and embarked on a tour across the empire, subtly intimidating allies and vassals, causing widespread unease and anticipation of an imminent conflict.
However, Luzak was soon poisoned by his trusted general and old friend, who sought to maintain peace. His son, Asal, a pacifist Dukar, then assumed the throne. He pledged to initiate reforms allowing the vassal states of Ars-Selmalir to govern themselves, a proposal welcomed by the other races. Regrettably, this pledge took an unforeseen turn. In the year of -255, 4 high mages of Nikiramath in the Chandalwood employed their magic to summon a tidal wave, intending to obliterate the 12 cities of the swords in Jamdath. Unbeknownst to them, their spell also raised the Asalbane monolith, a massive plateau beneath eastern Khorra-Selmal, resulting in the destruction of the city and the immediate demise of many inhabitants, primarily the Sea Elves, including the Khornal. The wreckage of Khorra-Selmal and Jamdath was swept away by the retreating waters, claiming the lives of many more. This catastrophic event precipitated the rapid collapse of Ars-Selmalir, sparking an intense power struggle among the remaining factions in Seros and initiating the Sixth Seros War. The Sea Elves endured harsh retaliatory purges that persisted for over a decade. In the year -231, amidst the chaos and violence in the Sea of Fallen Stars, the Kelporal clan, along with 2 other clans, sought refuge and established Highline in Lake Sember. Around the year 400 DR, the Aquatic Elves residing near the surface city of Northkeep on the Moon Sea incurred the wrath of the gods for refusing to aid the city during an assault of a goblinoid army. As punishment, the entire population of Aquatic Elves underwent a physical transformation into Marels and were bound to patrol the sunken city of Northkeep indefinitely. They renounced Deep Sashelas and the other Seldarine, shifting their allegiance to Umberlee and adopting a notably cruel demeanor. Prior to 650, Triktapic Kelporal was offered a position on the Council of Trees of Cormonthir, but declined, opting to remain among his people in Lake Sember. He remains the only known individual to have turned down such a prestigious offer. Additionally, a female aquatic elf once held the esteemed role of Spell Major, overseeing the magical division of the Cormonthiran army. Following the downfall of their empire, the Sea Elves assumed a diminished role in the political landscape of Seros. However, nearly a millennium later, the collapse of Mithranor prompted an influx of surface elves seeking refuge in the Sea of Fallen Stars. While this resurgence raised concerns among the other races about potential efforts to re-establish their empire, Sea Elves were largely overlooked due to the ongoing 10th Seros War and distractions of other races. Over the subsequent century, they founded 3 new kingdoms, Karavir, Naramir, and Selu-Marar, reasserting themselves as a significant power within Seros. In 936, the year of the Skyriders, the 3 newly established aquatic elven kingdoms unified under the leadership of the wizard Neratis, aiming to conquer Seros in what became known as the 11th Seros War, or sometimes called the New Ars-Selmalir War. Despite Neratis' creation of potent magical artifacts for the elven leaders, the war dragged on and ultimately ended in defeat for the elves. The kingdom of Karavir was annihilated, and Neratis managed to evade capture. Among the limited number of benevolent sea races, Merfolk are aquatic humanoids possessing the upper body, arms, and head of a human, coupled with their lower extremities, which resemble the tail of a fish. Some other features that distinguish them from a human include gill slits along their necks, slight webbing between their fingers, and pupils with an ice blue or pale silver hue. Typically, mermen reach lengths that are slightly taller than an average human, and boast broader shoulders compared to mermaids, who are slightly shorter on average. They are also quite heavy compared to humans, and due to their active lifestyles, they rarely become overweight, despite possessing greater strength than their physique might suggest. Variations in eye, hair, and skin color are as diverse as those seen in humans, as are the colors of their fins and scales. Merfolk across Faerun exhibit the full spectrum of human skin tones, with some regions showing a preference for certain hues. Common hair colors include light brown or blonde, aiding in camouflage, while blue and silver are considered rare and associated with significant destinies. The hues of merfolk fins and scales span from deep Kelly green to brilliant silver, with some displaying more vibrant colors or patterns, like stripes or speckles. Certain regions, such as Seros, showcase particularly bright colors, while others, like the Alamber Sea or the Vilhon Reach, feature scales ranging from copper to gold. During winter, merfolk shed old scales. When it comes to their attire, they often accessorize with shells and coral, while Serosian merfolk have a tradition of widespread tattooing in their culture. Known for their playful nature, merfolk often delight in playing pranks on adventurers they encounter. While their antics can sometimes seem harsh, they're rarely excessively malicious. Merfolk typically arm themselves with crossbows, daggers, javelins, nets, and tridents. When attacking surface-dwelling ships, they utilize grappling hooks. The earliest records of the Merfolk in the Inner Sea date back to approximately negative 20,000, evidenced by carvings found in undersea caves. In negative 1,533, the Merfolk of Shalarin declared independence, establishing the first kingdom of Mer. However, Malar swiftly quelled the rebellion, resulting in the slaughter of around a third of the Merfolk population. Following the Fourth Seros War, the surviving Merfolk established the kingdom of Thalvin under King Darmox's rule, with the protection of Chronology of Malar. During the 6th century, the Ninth Seros War erupted between the Merfolk realm of Murath and the Mero-Axe kingdoms of Hur and Namalk within Seros' undersea territory. The key battle of the Haunted Plains occurred in 654. In 735, the Merfolk kingdom of Eadral was founded, with its capital city, Boalidru, situated in the Mer Plateau. Queen Solana ascended as its inaugural monarch. Merfolk typically reside in secluded settlements nestled within coral reefs or cliff formations riddled with intricate passages and chambers. Some dwell in underwater cities crafted from coral, rocks, and shells, which often feature enclosed pens for keeping fish akin to livestock. They train marine creatures, such as giant seahorses, to serve as guardians and mounts, with barracudas being a favored choice, with 3 to 18 typically safeguarding a small community. Merfolk maintain an omnivorous diet, gathering underwater flora and fauna for sustenance. They engage in hunting aquatic creatures and cultivating certain fish species. They inhabit a range of aquatic environments, typically favoring temperate or tropical climates. They often venture beyond their underwater realms to visit coastal areas or bask in the sunlight. Some reside in the Trackless Sea and the Sea of Swords. In Waterdeep, they have established their own city within the harbor, accessible via the Mare Dock, which links to the Watermen's Guild Hall. The Sea of Fallen Stars is another region where Merfolk are commonly found. Additionally, a colony of Merfolk calls the Falls of Routhgor in the river Routhenflow home. They typically speak Common and Aquan. Eadro is the deity credited with the creation of both the Lokatha and the Merfolk, and is revered solely by these two races, albeit with distinct forms of worship. Devotion to Eadro among the Merfolk is fervent, expressed through open supplications, where non-Merfolk are welcome to witness the songs dedicated to him. Their prayers, sung and danced in the water, evolve with each season and during various festivities. While they respect the Lokatha's beliefs, the Merfolk find them perplexing. They possess the ability to engage with surface dwellers, given their amphibious nature allowing them to survive both in and out of water. However, they typically remain close to the water's edge, rarely venturing far from it. In Seros, numerous Merfolk form alliances with neighboring Selkies. Occasionally, both the Sirens and Merfolk engage in mating, resulting in offspring displaying characteristics shared by both parents, such as webbed fingers and scales. Sirens are playful and jovial aquatic fae creatures, renowned for their love of singing and dancing. Physically, they resemble ordinary human females, though their skin may possess a yellow or greenish hue, and their hair ranges from typical human colors to shades of silver or dark green. In confrontational situations, they typically avoid direct combat, utilizing their abilities to retreat to safety. They possess the power to charm other creatures, and can impair the intelligence of their adversaries. Some Sirens wield weapons such as bows, slings, or javelins, while a select few carry enchanted javelins. A mere touch from a Siren has the potential to instantly diminish a target's intelligence, a condition that persists until dispelled with magic or the affected individual is touched by another Siren. They are known to engage in playful interactions with strangers, albeit briefly, and seldom extend invitations to their lairs. In the Sea of Fallen Stars, Sirens are prevalent in regions surrounding Thesk and El Tumbal. Some small families reside within the mountains of Volar alongside storm giants. Additionally, they inhabit the Moonsea Lake and the Sea of Swords. Shalarin, also known as Finns, Finheads, and Wildtiders by Merfolk, and Skellar by noble Malenti, are an undersea species of graceful humanoid swimmers. They lack hair and possess dolphin-like smooth skin, maintaining a general elven body shape. Both genders typically stand around as tall as a human, with elongated fingers and toes and webbing between the digits. Most adult Shalarin sport a lighter colored dorsal fin extending from the bridge of their nose to their tailbone, which displays a colored marking denoting their caste. If a Shalarin practices magic, their fins and webbing emit a permanent glow. While predominantly silvery, Shalarin can also exhibit a variety of colors, such as ivory, red, orange, midnight blue, or jade, with bronze being considered rare and highly appealing. Their eyes lack irises and are dark in color. Similar to many aquatic races, they typically eschew clothing due to the drag it causes while swimming. Instead, they often adorn themselves with belts or harnesses crafted from woven kelp, sea snake skin, or eel skin to carry essential weaponry and gear. Although their nobles wear attire to signify status while in court, such garments are usually transparent and silky. They exhibit remarkable resilience to the water pressure typical of ocean depths. While their settlements primarily inhabit the upper depths of Seros, they are capable of descending comfortably to lower depths and can function even in the deep sea for brief periods. Few creatures, such as Tritons, krakens, and certain whales, surpass their adaptability to deep-sea environments. Breathing through gills situated on their torsos, they intake water near their shoulders, exhaling through slits along their rib cages. Their survival is dependent on remaining submerged in water for extended periods. Renowned for their swimming in the inner sea, they are among the most skilled aquatic navigators. Their webbed digits and dorsal fins afford them enhanced stability and exceptional maneuverability, with the ability to flex their fins while swimming contributing to their agility. While many aquatic humanoids possess eyes resembling those of surface dwellers, Shalarin have ocular characteristics more like fish and crustaceans, with eyes typically appearing entirely black, or less commonly, a very dark shade of blue or purple. Equipped with a nictitating membrane similar to fish, the creature's eyes are kept clean and protected. The membrane also grants them the ability to perceive the natural bioluminescence of objects and creatures from a medium distance, functioning much like infravision for surface dwellers, but working in water. Retracting automatically in sufficient light conditions, this membrane contributes to their sensitivity to light, making even overcast skies uncomfortable and full sunlight blinding. Consequently, they tend to avoid surface exposure during daylight hours, opting to wear goggles when venturing to the surface. They reproduce via oviparous means, laying eggs rather than giving birth to live offspring. Owing to their case-based social structure, they possess a precise understanding of their status within their own community, instantly discerning the implications of case markings and social interactions with fellow Shalarin. However, interactions with outsiders prove challenging, as they often defy immediate categorization based on appearance. Moreover, case boundaries rigidly dictate permissible activities, rendering the notion of engaging in tasks outside one's designated caste virtually inconceivable. Unlike Elven society, where an individual might excel in multiple roles, such as warrior, poet, and cook, Shalarin strictly adhere to a separate and non-overlapping role designated by caste. Consequently, encounters with outsiders whose caste cannot be readily determined can lead to confusion regarding appropriate social conduct, although they generally maintain a courteous and accommodating demeanor outside. Despite having inhabited Seros for close to 3 millennia and achieving a firm establishment by 1371, they still harbor reservations about fully embracing the Sea of Fallen Stars as their home. This sentiment is particularly pronounced among the Fates caste, which struggles with accepting and adapting to this reality. Originally hailing from the Sea of Coronactus, situated west of Maztica, the Shalarin unknowingly became embroiled in a sinister plot orchestrated by the demon lord Dagon. Seeking to usurp the power of the deities worshipped by the Shalarin, Dagon severed the connection between them and their followers. Employing magic, he created the Wild Tide Gate, a one-way portal leading to Seros. During the first Shalarin passing, a significant number of them were swept through this gate, only to face imminent slaughter orchestrated by an army comprising Merfolk, aquatic elves, and Dagon's followers. Though the cultists managed to inflict substantial casualties, the intervention of the Dukar orders and other races within Seros thwarted Dagon's plan, driving his forces back. Undeterred by this, he continued to exploit the Wild Tide Gate every 720 years, purging those resistant to his influence from the Sea of Coronactus. Unaware of Dagon's machinations, the Shalarin and Seros interpreted these events as the realization of a prophecy promising passage to a new world on 5 occasions. Each passage, prioritizing one of the great castes, was eagerly anticipated by them, with the 5th passage heralding the arrival of judges tasked with determining the Shalarin's worthiness for reunion with their kin. Predominantly located east of the Hummer Plateau and within the upper depths of Seros, Shalarin settlements have flourished. They developed specialized agricultural techniques, enabling the cultivation of vast kelp beds, even in environments lacking sufficient light for plant growth. Renowned for their expertise in pearl cultivation, they utilized pearls both as currency and in crafting their distinctive pearl armor. Utilizing geothermal vents as makeshift forges for metalworking, despite the challenges posed by the violent currents and mineral debris, Shalarin settlements strategically positioned themselves away from these vents to avoid adverse effects on visibility and health. Each settlement features multiple hatcheries for various clans, situated in warm underwater caves with muddy bottoms and fiercely guarded by the protectors. All Shalarin settlements in Seros are part of Asaram, also known as the Empire of Arim, comprising the kingdoms of Esrath, Espor, Esrak, and Esdan. The cornerstone of their society is the caste system, the defining and pervasive feature. Caste assignment occurs prenatally, as determined by markings on the shell of their eggs, designating them with one of the 4 great castes. Eggs laid in seclusion are promptly transferred to clan hatcheries, where they are grouped with others of the same caste. It is imperative for an offspring to be nurtured by a member of their designated caste, irrespective of biological parentage. Although mating and procreation are caste neutral, and caste affiliation is not strictly hereditary, at least one biological parent sharing the same caste permits the option to raise the child. From hatching, Shalarin undergo comprehensive training in foundational caste skills. Upon reaching adulthood, their dorsal fin unfurls from the spine, and the patterns on their fins dictate their subcaste, prompting further specialized training. The castes include the Protectors caste. Revered as the stalwart defenders of their culture, they are the warriors. They receive training in both conventional tactics and those of their adversaries, prioritizing honor even in combat, governed by a prescribed code. Born from dark brown eggs with a coarse texture, Protectors are distinguished by bone spikes supporting their fins, as opposed to the cartilage found in other castes. While their skin may vary in color, their fins lack distinct patterns, and no subgroups exist within their caste. The Provider caste is the nurturing core of Shalarin society and the majority of the population. It encompasses both the highest and lowest ranked subcastes, born from light brown eggs with a spiral texture pattern. The Ruler caste occupies the pinnacle of the caste hierarchy and comprises about 2% of the population. Rulers assume governance roles. They are required to serve in governmental positions as vacancies arise, and are also permitted to acquire skills from any other caste before assuming their designated role. In instances where a clan lacks rulers, a proxy is supplied by another clan. Distinguished by large white spots or stripes on their fins, those born with entirely white fins are destined for exceptionally significant social roles. Within the Provider's caste, there are many subgroups. The Servant caste occupies the lowest rung of their hierarchy. They are tasked solely with serving the rulers, performing exclusive chores for them. Unlike members of other castes, their fins remain flat against their backs, lacking the upward extension observed in others, and they receive no specialized training. The Scholars caste are regarded as the intellectual elite. They are tasked with preserving Shalarin history in some capacity. The Minstrel subcaste, comprising poets, singers, and bards, is distinguished by bright red edges on their fins and composes only around 1% of their population. The Sage caste, around 2%, functions as disseminators of knowledge. Sages share their studies with others as tutors and educators. They bear a red stripe on the leading edge of their fins, extending from the nose to the peak of their fin. The Arcane caste, also 1%, are the exclusive practitioners of wizardly magic. Arcanes bear red stripes along the base of their fins, tracing the scalp and spine. The Seekers caste, known as the explorers within Shalarin society, straddle the line between internal and external realms. Following their training, they are expelled from settlements to venture into uncharted territories, gathering knowledge beyond their domains. The Wanderer subcaste embraces the role of rogues. They navigate hidden spaces in search of secrets and lost treasures. Their fins are solid black. The Faith caste guides Shalarin with truth and purpose derived from the gods. Faiths underwent a transition from the Scholars caste due to the disconnect from the gods of Coronactus. They now seek new truths among the deities of Seros and Faerun. Absorbed into the Seekers caste, this transition is reflected physically in their fins. Before passing through the Wild Tide Gate, Faiths bore red whorls on their fins. Faiths born within Seros exhibit black fins akin to Wanderers, distinguished by a prominent red dot at the base of their fin above the nose, believed to symbolize the divine touch received in childhood. In addition to the caste system, their society is structured around 30 clans, each comprising members from various castes. While clan affiliation does not inherently dictate social status, certain clans may possess a higher proportion of rulers, affording them greater political influence. Shalarin typically maintain a discreet approach to their religious beliefs and practices. Upon their arrival in Seros, they discovered that many of their original gods no longer responded to their prayers. Following the first and second passings, some priests persisted in worshipping these gods unchanged, interpreting the silence as a test of faith. Shalarin born within Seros, along with those from subsequent passings, swiftly turned to the deities of Faerun. Some viewed these local deities as manifestations of their own gods, establishing new subcults with distinct Shalarin practices, while others simply converted to the new gods. All local deities were given names conforming to Shalarin standards, with Shalarin refraining from using alternative names. Despite varying interpretations, all of their kind acknowledged Trishina as the principal mother goddess of their culture, reverently calling her Rita Trisha. Each caste also venerates another patron deity believed to govern alongside her, with Trishina and the patron potentially considered progenitors of their respective castes. Eldoth, Persana, Istishia, and Mistra are among the popular gods, with many Shalarin embracing the worship of deep Sashelas by 1371. Additionally, smaller churches dedicated to Iadro, Milil, and Agma exist, while Umberly once boasted a significant following, although by 1373, the cult is largely known to have dwindled. Shalarin frequently wield tridents, distinctive for their smaller size compared to those used by other races and for their angled shafts, allowing for effective single or dual-handed use. These tridents often feature barbed tines to inflict greater damage on targets. Additionally, Shalarin employs specially crafted crossbows, a rarity underwater due to water resistance, which typically nullifies most ranged weapons. In terms of armor, a rarity among undersea races due to mobility constraints, they produce two main types. The first type, known as silver weave, resembles tough yet flexible fabric composed of silver coral fronds. Primarily reserved for wartime use, it is usually limited to leggings, as sustaining a leg injury could impair swimming ability. The second type, pearl armor, is more ornamental and crafted from pearls. Tritons are the only other species known to possess the knowledge to create such armors. Shalarin are generally well regarded by others due to their consistent display of respect and manners. Tritons, however, perceive them as somewhat naive owing to their open diplomatic dispositions, although their close alliance results in Shalarin being the sole recipients of the Tritons' iconic top-all weapons. Additionally, they are the only race that the Lokatha do not naturally fear, as they have never subjected them to enslavement. Nonetheless, they maintain a cautious attitude towards aquatic elves due to past attempts by the Arselmalin to eradicate them during the first and second passings. Shalarin hold a deep animosity towards Ixizatchital and typically engage them in combat on sight. Their perception of Morkoth is similarly unfavorable. Hippocampi find Shalarin intriguing, while Selkies tend to avoid them whenever possible for reasons that remain unclear. Originally hailing from the Sea of Coronactus, rumored to exist on the planet Capri, in -1509, during the first Shalarin passing, the Wild Tide Gate opened, depositing the bewildered Shalarin into the midst of the Third Seros War. They immediately faced a fierce assault from the combined forces of aquatic elves and merfolk, led by the Mad Kings Esselmarinth and Chiron, who served Dagon. Empowered by a deadly artifact called the Emerald Eye, these kings nearly succeeded in annihilating the Shalarin, claiming the lives of approximately 3/4 of the newcomers. However, the merfolk nation of Tivon, the Morkoth Enclave, known as the Four Arcana of Humbar, and the Dukar orders, united to defend them, ultimately thwarting Dagon's plans. Following the war's conclusion, the surviving Shalarin established the city-state of Eskrin. The second passing occurred in -789, with many of the new arrivals settling in Eskrin, although some migrated further east. Unfortunately, the reigning coronal of the Asaram Empire of aquatic elves, Vaquist II, driven by paranoia, launched an attack on Eskrin, sparking the Fifth Seros War. Despite her eventual defeat, this conflict led to the decimation of Eskrin and the Four Arcana of Humbar. In the aftermath, the Shalarin retreated deeper underwater, displacing the destroyed Morkoth Enclave to establish Esrath. Teaming up with the Dukar orders, they stood against the Empire's aggression. After the collapse of the Arselmalar Empire in -255 and the ensuing Sixth Seros War, the Shalarin emerged as one of the predominant powers in Seros. In -108, Esrath became a target of the Morkoth theocracy of the Deep Ones during the Seventh Seros War. Remarkably brief, This conflict only lasted 2 years and concluded when Tritons emerged from the depths of the sea trenches. Following their intervention, they remained in Seros and assisted the Shalarin in repelling future Morgoth incursions. In the year of no regrets, -69, the third passing occurred, marking the first time that new Shalarin arrived during a period of peace and were not immediately assaulted. This allowed them to swiftly establish the kingdoms of Esthon and Espur, which later united with Esrath to form Asaram. With their dominion extending from the Hummer Plateau to the eastern coast, the Shalarin asserted control over most of the inner sea. Peace prevailed in Seros for the next 388 years, until the Shalarin and Merfolk jointly ousted the Ixisatchital from the Paolon Reef during the 8th Seros War, consolidating the Shalarin dominance over the northeastern waters further. In the year of the waning sun, 651, the fourth passing occurred, coinciding with the 9th Seros War. Collaborating with the Merfolk and the Dukar orders, the Shalarin contributed to drafting the laws of battle aimed at preventing genocidal violence within Seros. In the year of the Earnest Oaths, 709, the Merfolk kingdom of Murath collapsed amid 7 internal civil wars. This event drew in all sentient races, with the Shalarin engaging in hostilities against both Merfolk and Aquatic Elves. Lasting over 40 years, this conflict witnessed a significant influx of surface elves transformed into aquatic elves, bolstering their numbers. Despite concerns among other races, including the Shalarin, about the resurgence of the Asaram Empire, they were preoccupied with the ongoing war, allowing aquatic elves to establish several new realms. Following the war's conclusion, the Mermaids' oracle Selana prophesied that the Merfolk and Shalarin would one day become close allies, with the possibility of the Shalarin sharing their world with the Merfolk as the Merfolk had done with them. The following centuries have been relatively tranquil for the Shalarin. The fifth and final passing took place on the Feast of the Moon in the year of the Unstrung Harp, 1371. According to prophecy, the passing was to introduce a previously unknown caste of judges who would determine whether or not the Serosian Shalarin are deserving of reuniting with their distant kin in the Sea of Coronactus, or if they will forever be separated. Consequently, there was a mix of excitement and apprehension as preparations were made for the event. When the passing finally occurred, the Wild Tide Gate unexpectedly opened permanently, establishing a link between the Sea of Fallen Stars and the Sea of Coronactus. Concerned that other races may seek to exploit the newfound connection, the Serosian Shalarin strove to keep it secret. Their distress deepened upon learning that the Coronactian Shalarin have largely embraced the worship of Dagon, forsaking their increasingly unresponsive gods. The Serosian Shalarin have therefore severed most contact with their kin on the other side of the gate. Unfortunately, their efforts have proven futile, as Dagon cultists have already infiltrated their empire and clandestinely worked to expand their ranks. Asaram, known as the Empire of Aram, exists as the nation of Shalarin in Seros and is located beneath the Sea of Fallen Stars. The boundaries of Asaram extend over much of the northeastern sea, stretching from the Hummer Plateau and the Abyssal Plains to the east of the Pirate Isles and north of the Wamite Isles to the caverns of Hinos and the shores of the Great Dale in the Easting Reach. It holds the title of being the largest nation beneath the Sea of Fallen Stars from its inception and throughout at least the mid to late 14th century. This empire encompasses 4 kingdoms: Esthon, a region known for its agricultural abundance, located on the Poia Plateau, south of Impeltur; Espur, recognized for its military might, positioned between the Bimal Trench and the Paolin Reef, east of Thesk; Esrath, esteemed for its wealth and religious significance, situated east of the Pirate Isles; and Esroch, renowned for its artistic and metallurgical excellence, found in the Easting Reach. The empire operates under a feudal system, with an Eadar, or emperor, reigning supreme. The Eadar, though positioned as the highest authority, remains detached from the day-to-day affairs of the empire, leaving each of the 4 kingdoms to be overseen directly by its respective Finar, or king, who in turn are supported by the Golmars, or dukes. It is often remarked that Asaram is not solely one realm, but rather 5, including the 4 kingdoms and Asaram itself. While the Eadar holds nominal sovereignty over this confederation of kingdoms, power is shared with the Finars, and their decrees are not absolute. The capital city, Usra, situated within the kingdom of Esrath, houses the great palace of Rita Panal. Each of the 3 kingdoms' capitals also hosts an imperial palace adjacent to the royal palace. By the mid to late 14th century, Asaram has been governed for over a century by its 22nd Yadar, the aged and ailing Riola Khan. His successor, Riola Kirk, is a youthful ranger. Asaram holds a position in the Nantar Council alongside other prominent nations in Seros. Estan serves as the agricultural hub of the empire, yielding 80% of Asaram's food from its plentiful fields of kelp, sponge, and sea urchin. Additionally, it plays a significant role in exports, supplying approximately a quarter of Mithnantar's food, as well as comparable amounts to other Shalarin allies. Espur also possesses a considerable expanse of farmland, although the kingdom is perhaps more renowned for the hunting opportunities within its wilderness. Esrock is the epicenter of craftsmanship, generating intricately carved coral and jewelry, along with weapons and armor, including the renowned silver weave and pearl armors of the Shalarins, as well as various other metalworks. The empire boasts a highly structured and conservative society, governed by a rigid caste system comprising the Seekers, including priests of the faith caste, primarily situated in Esroth, the Scholars, and the Providers, encompassing both the servants and ruler caste, as well as the Protectors. The majority of the Espers are situated in Espur, while their counterparts in Esroth are occasionally referred to as the Warriors. While military strength holds significant cultural importance in much of Asaram, the Empire adamantly rejects expansionist ambitions, viewing their existing borders as ordained by destiny. Consequently, they fiercely guard their existing territory. Each of the four kingdoms possesses its own distinct subculture. Estan leans toward a more relaxed attitude with less political inclinations. Espur stands as the most militant, serving as the historical hub for arcane magical studies and producing the highest number of Shalarin Dukars. Esroth exudes opulence and tradition, acting as the religious epicenter of the empire, and Esrock emerges as the most industrious, serving as the nucleus of Shalarin art and music. Structures within the empire adopt a square shape, crafted from Hydrazoan wood, fortified with kelp and pearl, while seashells commonly adorn their rooftops. In urban areas, coral and stone emerge as prevalent construction materials, with pristine white star coral exclusively employed in erecting the four imperial palaces. Elaborate buildings frequently feature domes and towers as prominent architectural elements. In the depths, Asaram settlements often rely on the luminosity of coral as a substitute for the light of the sun. The city of Usroth and Esroth serves as the focal point for Shalarin temples, owing to its proximity to the Wild Tide Gate. The empire venerates Faerunian gods, albeit with different appellations and modified attributes aligned with their ancient religion and culture. Trishina holds the highest reverence as the paramount deity and mother goddess, followed by Eldath, Persana, Istishia, and Mistra, as well as a few others. Various deities are honored as patrons of different castes. Worship of deep Sashelas has gained increasing popularity in the mid to late 14th century. Following the 5th Shalarin passing, some Asaram Shalarin have reverted to the worship of their ancient silent gods, notably turning away from Umberly. Concurrently, the cult of Coronactus, a Dagon cult, has established roots in the empire. The Asaram military primarily draws its ranks from troops originating in Espur, tasked with defending not only their own borders, but also those of Estan and Esrock. Their main fighting force, known as the Knights of Espur, encompasses not only warriors, but also rangers and wizards. The kingdom maintains a military academy at Uskern. Throughout its history, Asaram has alternated between alliances and conflicts with nations representing nearly every other race in Seros, including the Merfolk, Sea Elves, Ixizachitls, Mero, Koalinth, Sahuagin, and Tritons, often maintaining a precarious state of neutrality at best. However, as of the year of the Tankard, 1370, they have aligned with many of these races as part of the Nantarn Alliance, striving to establish a lasting peace. Thanks to the closer bonds with the Tritons fostered by this alliance, the Asaram military has gained access to the top hall armor in the mid to late 14th century. In the year of the Sinhala, 916, following the 4th Shalarin passing, Esrock was established by the latest influx of newcomers from the Sea of Coronactus as the 4th kingdom of Asaram. At this point, the empire attained the geographic size it would maintain for the next several centuries, with the exception of a brief period of expansion of Espur under the rule of its 60th Finar, Re-Alatarl, between the year of the Petulant Dragon, 1135, and the year of Privateers, 1204. During the 11th Seros War, Asaram forged an alliance with the Mero, Koalinth, and Merfolk factions against the Sea Elves of Kervir, Naramir, and Selu Marar, under the reign of their 7th Eadar, Riarakos. In the year of Pain, 1245, Riolacon assumed the mantle of the 22nd Eadar at the age of 116. In the year of many bones, 1278, an assassin abruptly ended the 78-year rule of Esper's 61st Finar, Riela Poroth, leading to the usurpation of the Esper royal seat by Re-Ira Kryn IX. However, the usurper's reign lasted nearly a month before being swiftly executed by the Esper military, restoring Riala's sword as the 62nd Finar of Esper. Nonetheless, this incident sparked an 80-year feud between the ruling Ala clan and the usurper Ura clan, former historic rulers of the kingdom. Both Riala's sword and her successor, Riala Tarl II, fell victim to assassination. Ultimately, Riala Vor, the 64th Finar of Esper, quelled the feud by annihilating the Ura clan and banishing the survivors. During the time of troubles in the Year of Shadows, 1358, Asaram experienced aggressive magical disturbances, resulting in the demise of Finar Riala Vor. In 1369, Eadar Riolacon made an unexpected decision by taking up residence in the palace of Lenaron in Nantar without consulting the Finars. Concern among the four Finars escalated, as they feared Riolacon aimed to align the Shalarin Empire more closely with the other peoples of Seros, a prospect they were unprepared for due to the Shalarin's long history of struggle. Rumors circulated that some Finars contemplated withdrawing from the Asaram Confederation or even removing the Emperor. Indeed, Riolacon met his demise from poisoning on green grass of the Year of the Tankard in 1370, triggering political discord within Asaram between the warrior caste of Esrath and their adversaries in Esrok. In the Year of the Rogue Dragons, 1373, the Empire suffered from dragon assaults due to the rage of dragons that year, prompting them to unite with their allies to confront a flight of dragons at Nantar. In exchange for securing potent weaponry for this battle from a Shalarin priestess of Umberlee, Tuolaketh, the Eadar, was compelled to swear that all Asaram would pay homage to Umberlee's temples once every 10 days through the Year of Lightning Storms, 1374. Tuakol, born in 1313, underwent training as a Dukar under Kos and others in Katoris. Kos, residing within the Dukar Reef in Nantar, held a position of great influence and mystery in Seros. Known only to his students and fellow paragons, he wielded complete authority over the Great Barrier and was the sole paragon capable of imparting the teachings of the Peacekeeper's ways. Tuakol later served as a secret agent in Merfolk territories, where he saved Vamus's life around 1349, leading to a close bond between them. Despite opposition from King Ator IX and the court, Tuakol became Vamus's advisor and wizard tutor. Described as a man of his word, Tuakol prioritized his vows to Vamus and his Dukar leader Gaiar. He advocated for Merfolk to harness wizard magic and closely observed Arena, whom he believed to be the chosen star as prophesied by Kos, seeing her as vital in restoring the lost order of Jamari. Tritons, originating from the elemental plane of water, are a humanoid species known for their unique adaptations to underwater life. Their skin commonly displays hues of deep blue, pearl, or light green, and occasionally manifests as rare mutant colors. Characterized by webbed hands and feet, as well as minor dorsal fins extending from their mid-calf to ankles, they stand around the average height of a human. They typically sport dark blue or green hair, often worn in long, flowing styles termed manes. While Triton men typically maintain their hair at a length extending just past their shoulders, occasionally braiding it, Triton women may choose to leave it unbound. Notably, Triton hair does not grow around their ears, creating the illusion of a shaved area. During combat, they often secure their hair into tight ponytails for improved visibility and may incorporate pieces of coral or metal for use as improvised weapons. Their eyes, usually in shades of a brilliant green or blue, adapt to varying lighting conditions. In standard lighting, akin to human eyes, they appear normal. However, in dim light, their pupils dilate significantly to enhance the visibility, sometimes turning their entire eye black. Equipped with a nictitating membrane, Triton eyes are shielded from sudden light changes or flashes, facilitating clear vision even at great depths. They are capable swimmers, known to safely navigate the depths of the Sea of Fallen Stars with ease. They possess a strong sense of pride shaped by their historical role as protectors of the world against perceived threats from the depths of the sea. This centuries-long duty has instilled in them a belief in their entitlement to recognition and respect from other races, a sentiment often overlooked due to widespread ignorance about Triton culture. Isolation from the broader world has left them unaware of the accomplishments and struggles of other civilizations, with their own endeavors overshadowing those of others in their eyes. Nevertheless, beneath their arrogance lies a noble and compassionate nature. Despite their biases, Tritons are willing to make significant sacrifices to safeguard other races, driven by a profound sense of responsibility for allowing the dangers of the elemental plane of water to encroach upon the world. The translation of their name Triton to guardian in their language reflects their inherent heroic disposition. Central to their culture is the Tapal, a unique weapon passed down through familial lines and bestowed upon Tritons upon reaching adulthood. Additionally, they employ traditional aquatic weaponry, including specialized crossbows adapted to underwater conditions, reinforced for durability against the sea's pressure. Other ornaments in their arsenal include stingray whips, daggers, javelins, nets, and their preferred weapon, the trident. Crafted predominantly from bone or coral, Triton weapons are often enchanted for enhanced strength, while some incorporate magical metals to prevent corrosion in the water. In Seros, Tritons don silverweave armor, a unique protective attire crafted from silver coral fronds, treated to combine the durability of chainmail and the flexibility of cloth. Primarily worn during wartime, this armor is typically utilized for leg protection. Triton spellcasters often substitute magical staves with various shells. Rather than recording spells in traditional spellbooks, they prefer inscribing them into cavern walls in a language exclusive to Triton wizards, within caves accessible only to them. Central to Triton belief is the law of duels, whereby conflicting armies nominate champions to engage in personal combat, representing their respective factions. This public contest may be non-lethal, with victory determined by drawing first blood, as chosen by the challenged party rather than the challenger. In the elemental plane of water, many serve as bodyguards or attendants to noble Mermaids or water genies. Among these, a significant number reside in or frequent the Citadel of 10,000 Pearls, acting as courtiers to the esteemed Marid called Bari al-Durat al-Amwai ibn Jari. Some Tritons accompany her to the material plane as part of her entourage, while others can be found in Elavendor, located in the plane of Arborea. On the material plane, Tritons inhabit various major bodies of water across Toril. They populate regions such as the Sea of Swords along the Sword Coast, the Inner Sea within the interior of Faerun, the Trackless Sea off the coast of Mastika, the Great Sea and its Bay of Dancing Dolphins, as well as the oceans of Sahara. Within the Inner Sea, Tritons established 3 kingdoms centered around the Deepwater Trench known as the Trench of Lopak, Al-Horsath, Humanath, and Vuvaksath. Despite being referred to collectively as the Triton Protectorates by other creatures in the Inner Sea, they are not a unified political or social entity. Additionally, there may be other Triton settlements within the Inner Sea, but they remain unknown to the wider world due to a deliberate isolationist stance. Their society operates under a patriarchal feudal structure, with inherited noble titles defining hierarchy. Power is shared significantly between the military and the priesthood, with the latter governing citizens domestically, while the former ensures the community's survival. However, their authority is confined to their respective protectorates, as each stands as an independent sovereign nation. Their settlements adhere to a meticulously organized layout, reflecting their tendency for orderliness. Protectorates typically originate from a central garrison outpost, usually a tower, surrounded by additional structures or caverns for expanded accommodations. 4 outposts are then established 16 miles apart from the central tower, positioned in each cardinal direction. Subsequent outpost formations follow this pattern, creating a grid-like arrangement that guarantees each settlement's proximity within a half-day's journey of the others. The protectorates typically consist of a capital city, 8 trade cities encircling it, 12 farming villages, and 24 outposts providing defense. Their settlements are located deeper than most of the good inhabitants on Toril. They exploit hydrothermal vents for metal smelting, producing valuable weaponry and armor. However, prolonged exposure to the mineral-rich waters carries health risks, prompting Titans to limit their interactions with them. Persana serves as the creator deity among the Tritons, a fact largely obscure to those beyond their race. Many outsiders who do not know Persana perceive him merely as a god associated with construction and guardianship, owing to the veil of silence and mystery surrounding him and his followers. Physically, he manifests as a towering, muscular Triton with green skin, often seen carrying a sizable conch shell in shades of pink and green. Within Triton society, which operates on a theocratic framework, almost all members maintain some form of connection to Persana's church. Undersea cities dedicated to him are erected by his adherents, and priests are known to extend assistance to followers of other faiths, provided the outcome aligns with the Triton's interests. In the underwater realm of Seros, Tritons congregate primarily in two locations, one being Nantar. Here, alongside other races, they strive to reconstruct the city into a grander metropolis than its previous iteration. Persana views safeguarding the city as significant for its future destiny. According to their belief, Persana fashioned their species from a magically treated water sourced from the fountain of the elemental plane of water. While Persana's primary concern is for the Tritons, he demonstrates a willingness to cooperate with the other races and their deities for the betterment of his people. On rare occasions, Persana intervenes directly, either through his avatar appearing in Triton courts to provide guidance, or by sending omens in the form of pearls, underwater whirlpools, or living caverns. The priests of Persana bear numerous responsibilities within their society. They serve as arbiters in justice and legal matters, act as architects in the construction of undersea cities, and even lead Tritons into battle. Some attribute their creation to the god Iedro. Additionally, Titans are said to possess a sizable druidic population compared to surface-dwelling races, dedicated to tending to their aquatic environment and safeguarding it from harm. One of the most renowned organizations founded by the Tritons is the Dukars. Utilizing a mysterious ritual, the Dukars incorporate coral implants into their skeletons, facilitating the flow of magic within them. The Dukars are divided into two factions: the Lore Keepers, dedicated to preserving history, and the Peacekeepers, responsible for maintaining peace and acquiring knowledge. Comprising members of various races, including storm giants, great whales, dolphins, Koalinth, and Aetsizachitl, the organization vanished 600 years ago amid an undisclosed conflict, thereby concluding their 8,000-year campaign for peace. Despite their dwindling numbers, they persist, focusing on upholding fragile alliances in Seros. Additionally, they are believed to have an order of paladins called the Order of the Crimson Shell. Their primary objective is to eradicate the Sahuagin threat and dismantle their cult, the Jaws of Sekolah, which inflicts terror upon the region. They maintain favorable relations with certain aquatic creatures, such as giant seahorses known as Hippocampi, and sea lions, which respond to summons when signaled by the sounding of a conch shell horn. However, they exhibit discomfort around dolphins due to the latter's tendency to intrude upon Triton territory without regard, often challenging the Triton's reserved demeanor. Additionally, Tritons domesticate twilight turtles, a species of black and purple aquatic turtles that emit bioluminescent glows and serve as both companions and pack animals. In Seros, Tritons count on various sapient allies, including the Shalarin, Merfolk, Morkoth of Katoris, and the inhabitants of Nantar. Despite their xenophobic tendencies, Tritons rarely resort to killing outsiders without cause. Instead, they subject intruders to trial in Triton courts, where their innocence or guilt is assessed. Those deemed innocent awaken the following day on a nearby shore, while the guilty are stripped of their possessions and set adrift 10 miles from the nearest shore, a practice known as leaving them to the fate of the seas. Centuries in the past, Tritons engaged in battles against various elemental adversaries within the plane of water, including krakens, Sahuagin, and other threats. Upon defeating these foes, they forced them into the darkest depths, a forbidding region within the water plane. Curiously, Tritons later discovered a notable silence from their adversaries, prompting an investigation into the darkest depths. There they uncovered that their enemies had escaped to the prime-material plane. Motivated by a sense of responsibility for allowing them to escape, Tritons launched expeditions to pursue them into the prime-material plane. Skilled volunteers armed with weapons and magic were dispatched to guard potential entry points, such as portals and deep-sea trenches, establishing protectorates to monitor and defend against potential threats. After banishing these evils to the furthest reaches of the ocean, Tritons opted to remain in the prime-material plane, erecting cities on the seafloor and engaging in trade with other races. Despite their presence, they have maintained a secluded existence, seldom interacting even with merfolk and sea elves. The earliest documented encounter of Tritons on Toril occurred during the 5th Seros War, around -788, when they allied with the Shalarin kingdom of Eskrin against the Asaram Empire. This alliance formed primarily due to the sea elves aligning with the Triton's sworn enemies, a pair of krakens from the Trench of Lopak named Borepolis and Rylurkarth. During the conflict, legend tells of Triton Dukar Kaios slaying Borepolis using the legendary Kraken Scourge, with some accounts suggesting he transformed into the weapon itself. Following the war, the whereabouts of Triton protectorates have remained undisclosed. During the climactic period of the 7th Seros War, a storm giant adventurer named Lorthar, armed with the long-lost Kraken Scourge, succumbed to a legion of elite Morkoth fighters in one of the war's final battles. Briefly wrestled from his grasp, the Kraken Scourge became the subject of intense interest as Triton protectorates, driven by a resolute determination to reclaim the weapon and confront their ancient adversaries, unexpectedly intervened. Their involvement in the conflict brought broader recognition to the Triton presence among the Serosians. Triton forces swiftly countered the theocracy of the Deep Ones, forcing the Morkoths to retreat to the deeper recesses of the Inner Sea and reclaiming possession of the Kraken Scourge. Following this confrontation, Tritons continued to play an active role in Seros, aiding in maintaining equilibrium between the Shalarin and the Morkoth of Seros. Over time, the three kingdoms constituting the Triton protectorates have become recognized by the other races within Seros. Born around negative 11,000, Vodos was already advanced in age during the emergence of the Asaram Empire. As the devout follower of Persana, he constructed the initial fortifications in the Shark's Teeth Mounts and is credited with the conception and potential construction of the Sharksbane Wall. The circumstances of his demise remain shrouded in mystery. Around negative 10,400 in his twilight years, he ventured into the depths of the Trench of Lopok and never returned. Speculation has abounded regarding his final resting place, with many assuming he had chosen Lopok, yet conclusive evidence is lacking. The Sharkspane Wall spans a vast distance and serves as a protective barrier for Seros. Its construction commenced in negative 9,845 with the aim of linking garrison towers situated among the Shark's Teeth Mounts, famously referred to as the Pillars of the Trident. Completion of the wall occurred in negative 8,938, extending from the Arcana Peaks in the northernmost region of Jacinta to the southwesternmost point of Altumbel, situated southwest of Delfuntal. Initially spearheaded by the clergy of Deep Sashelas, Iedro, and Persana, the endeavor gradually saw diminished Triton involvement, leading to the replacement of Persana by Trishina as the official deity of the Pillars. Effectively confining Sahuagin to the southeastern arm of the Inner Sea, the wall has proven a formidable obstacle for their raiders, impeding casual or unnoticed incursions. Over the ensuing 9 centuries, post-completion, Sahuagin west of the wall faced relentless persecution and eradication. Preceding the spell plague, the wall's summit remained unsubmerged at a depth facilitating easy passage for ships. However, subsequent to the spell plague and the induced recession of the Sea of Fallen Stars, the wall's apex emerges above the water's surface. Hippocampi are aquatic equine-like beings. Their physique melds the body of a horse with a scaly fish's tail, boasting fins in lieu of hooves or a traditional mane. Their anterior is adorned with diminutive scales, contrasting with the larger scales adorning their posterior. Their complexion varies, showcasing hues of ivory, blue, or green, mirroring the sea's tones. They exhibit adaptability and respiration, capable of breathing saline or fresh water, as well as atmospheric air for brief intervals. Proficient swimmers and adept divers, they navigate waterways with remarkable agility. Possessing an innate wildness, they resist domestication, yet can be trained for transportation and combat. Guided by their inherent goodness and astute judgment of character, they align with virtuous causes, rebuffing any affiliation with malevolent entities. Renowned for their speed, they excel in racing and serve as esteemed mounts, favored by sea elves, tritons, and even chosen as steeds for aquatic paladins. Hippocampi reside in pods, typically comprising 1 to 3 stallions and approximately 8 to 20 mares. Within each pod, a stallion assumes leadership through customary practices and rituals. Each stallion maintains its own harem, consisting of mares that elect to join and remain within it for their own lifetime. In exchange for support, Hippocampi often form alliances with Tritons, who in reciprocation safeguard the Hippocampi's eggs within their strongholds. During times of significant peril or crisis, multiple pods may unite to confront a mutual threat, potentially assembling gatherings comprising thousands of them. In the unapproachable east, they inhabit the lakes of Rashaman and the surrounding waters of Aglarond. They primarily communicate in their own language alongside Aquan, although like other intelligent beings, they possess the capacity to learn additional languages through proper instruction. The Selkie, sometimes known as a seal-ware, is an exceptionally rare entity with the ability to transform into either a seal-like creature or a humanoid figure. These intelligent beings possess webbed hands and feet instead of flippers, and their eyes shimmer in either light blue or vibrant green hues reminiscent of emeralds. In their natural form, they resemble ordinary seals. but they can take on a human guise for approximately a week once a month. While their human appearance may vary, they typically have bronze skin, complemented by either black or gray hair. They exhibit peculiar behaviors, including a fondness for seafood and an unexpected affinity for wine, which at times leads to their inadvertent exposure. Despite their seemingly carefree nature, these shapeshifters hold a deep concern for the well-being and conservation of their aquatic habitat, often displaying a heightened sensitivity to the mistreatment of marine life by surface dwellers and outsiders. Their humanoid forms remain impervious to dispelling, being antherions, yet spells like true seeing or the presence of a creature with true sight could pierce through the guise they have adopted. Leaders within their communities commonly possess knowledge of spells such as augury, control weather, cure disease, cure light wounds, and weather summoning. However, they typically reserve the use of weather-related magic for moments of dire necessity or when seeking retribution. In addition to leaders, some with a knack for magic assume the role of hedge wizards. Selkies typically eschew weapons in combat due to their hindrance in water, which significantly impedes their mobility. Instead, they favor evading confrontation, relying on their powerful webbed limbs to swiftly retreat. When pressed to fight, they employ their natural weaponry, such as sharp teeth in their true form, but readily wield weapons when assuming a humanoid guise. Proficient in the use of cutlasses, swords, tridents, and harpoons, they demonstrate versatility in combat. They often rally under the guidance of a singular leader who assumes a role akin to that of a cleric, providing healing and remedy to his fellows. Occasionally, these leaders exhibit mastery over the elements, wielding the ability to influence the weather, either to soothe or incite storms. They thrive as hunter-gatherer societies, with responsibilities divided between providers, typically males, and caretakers, usually females. However, both genders are esteemed and held in high regard. They delight in the pursuit of treasure, often salvaged from sunken ships, which they diligently stockpile within their cozy grottos. Alongside grottos, they make their homes in underwater caverns located in cold water environments, whether saltwater or freshwater. These cavernous abodes boast access to air, crucial for the respiratory needs of young Selkies during their first year of life. They are known to inhabit various regions, including the waters of Mastika, the Moonshae Isles, and the expansive Great Ice Sea encircling the Arctic plains of the Horde Lands, as well as Seros and the Sea of Fallen Stars, and its northwestern fjord, the Dragon Reach. In the unapproachable east, they can also be found dwelling in the lakes of Rashomon. Beyond the confines of the material plane, they are said to make their homes in Aqualor, known to them as the Endless River, as well as along the river Oceanus. Selkies commonly refer to the world above the ocean where humans reside as the Overworld. In their human guise, they frequent the Overworld to procure supplies and information, albeit with only limited familiarity with surface life. Certain Selkies dedicate extensive periods on the surface in attempts to sway human communities' policies concerning their natural habitat. However, some humans regard them with a mixture of fear and superstition, often mistaking them for sea wolves. Those dwelling in Seros often form alliances with nearby aquatic elves and merfolk. However, for reasons unbeknownst, Selkies avoid interaction with neighboring Lokatha and Shalarin. A portion of them are known to venerate Istishia, while others assume the role of shaman in service to the deity Serminare. Serminare is the creator of Selkies and their patron deity, though not much information exists beyond her participation in the Asathalfinare. Istishia is the neutral primordial deity governing elemental water and purification. Unlike other deities overseeing specific bodies or states of water, Istishia embodies a more abstract essence, representing the water itself as a mutable and dynamic force of constant change, anchored by an essential core. Depicted in various forms, ranging from a mere drop of rain to a colossal water elemental or water weird, Istishia manifests as a towering column of water, which effortlessly maneuvers through obstacles, emitting sounds reminiscent of surf crashing upon the shore. It was known to fragment into multiple parts, a tactic employed to confound his adversaries. When speaking, the voice echoes the myriad sounds of rushing water, babbling brooks, and gentle rainfall. Istishia epitomizes a slippery and dispassionate power, with motives and logic beyond the comprehension of most. While providing the essential atmosphere for life and a vital resource, Istishia remains indifferent to the use of these gifts and the life they sustain. Towards his followers, the god exhibits a relative aloofness, seemingly favoring or ignoring on a whim an alien and capricious nature that renders his unpredictability somewhat predictable. Although Istishia lacks a conventional deity's court, and despite his followers' belief that he encompasses the entire elemental plane of water, he maintains a distinctive divine realm known as the Sea of Timelessness. He has connections to deities associated with water, however these relationships are not particularly strong. These include Deep Sashelas, Yedro, Eldoth, Persana, Shakenester, Suriminare, Trishina, Umberli, Valkur, and the Water Lion. Among these, Istishia loosely collaborates with Sashelas, Trishina, and Eldoth to regulate the sea's life cycles. However, he shows no interest in Umberli's storms or Valkur's sailors. He opposes Kasuth in all respects, and observes the rivalry between the water archomentals Ben-Hadar and Al-Hydra, possibly intervening if either gained a significant chance of controlling the entire elemental plane of water. Worshippers of the god include sailors, pirates, water elementals, water genasi, and some sea elves, as well as others who feel a kinship with the ocean's destructive and arbitrary power. In Kalimshan, several important shrines and temples dedicated to the god exist. The city of Kaltar boasts a shrine known as the Steps of Istishia, constructed thousands of years prior to the 14th century. Additionally, the city of Kalimport houses the grandiose Palace of the Cresting Wave, a 7-story structure devoted to the god's worship. In the continent of Zakhara, Istishia is regarded as one of the cold gods of the elements. As these deities are perceived as indifferent to human affairs, they stand in opposition to Zakhara's prevailing culture of enlightenment. Consequently, few Zakharans are inclined to worship a deity characterized as cold in order to gain power. Nantar, also known as the City of Destinies, lies submerged underwater west of the Wamide Isles and north of Waladru. It is safeguarded by a mythal, a powerful magical barrier. Following the spell plague, the Sea of Fallen Stars has receded, revealing part of the city above the water's surface. In the year 1369, the city emits a faint glow when observed from a distance, and coral proliferates throughout its environs, considered a captivating spectacle by its denizens. However, approximately 3/4 of the city is either engulfed by coral formations or submerged under the reef. The legal affairs in Nantar as of 1369 were overseen by the Dukars, although a formal written legal code is absent. The legal framework resembles that of other elven domains, such as Mithranor. Offenses are adjudicated by the Dukars and their magistrate, Kos. Minor transgressions may result in labor-based penalties, often entailing the clearing of a reef of coral, while severe infractions are met with exile or capital punishment. The Dukars are a collective of Serosian wizards utilizing coral implants to harness their magical abilities. Their primary aim is safeguarding Seros against various threats while fostering unity and tranquility among the various races. The Dukars are categorized into 5 houses: Nantari, Jemar, Kupav, Malirn, and Numos. Additionally, 2 distinct paths exist within the tradition: the Lore Keeper and the Peacekeeper. The Nantari order fell during the initial conflicts among the factions, while the Jemar order ceased to exist sometime before the 1370s. Originating from High Elven mages in Kormanthor, the Dukars evolved after migrating to Seros. The authentic Dukars were established by the Triton Dukar, the legendary first Grand Master and mentor of the 4 founders during the early era of ancient Arsimalir. Over the next 8,000 years, they upheld Seros' peace and unity, attracting members from various races, including whales, dolphins, storm giants, Koalinth, and Itzizachitl. Internal discord eventually led to their downfall, though a small fraction persisted until 1369. By this time, their existence had become almost forgotten. With the Jemar order already extinct, the entire organization was facing dwindling membership. Despite efforts to recruit new members and prevent their extinction, the Dukars struggled to survive amidst a myriad of enemy assaults. Among the noteworthy Dukars is Dinam. Dinam presents himself as courteous and well-mannered, yet he reveals a ribald sense of humor and an unwavering trust towards those he considers comrades. He perceives his induction into the Dukars as a rebirth and is dedicated to preserving the greatness of the Nantarn alliance. Originally a noble from Sembia, Dinam embarked on various adventures. In 1361, his ship fell victim to pirates on a journey across the Sea of Fallen Stars, leading to his disappearance just north of the Wamide Isles. Upon awakening in Mithnantar, he lacked recollection of his previous life on the surface. Subsequently, Ghost entrusted Dinam with becoming one of the inaugural members of the Order of Malar. By 1370, Dinom, alongside his companions Paxus and Caioatara, was guiding ships under attack by Nantar's Mythal away from the city and towards the shipwrecked plains. Jorunhast served as the High Wizard of Cormyr, known for his robust physique and broad shoulders, having been trained by Thonderhast. In his tenure, Jorunhast confronted red dragons during the invasion of Suzail in 1018. He notably rescued a young woman from a window within the burning castle Obarskir, which led to a rift with Azun II, who had been courting her. Pursuing the dragon Thauglor, Jorunhast engaged in a fierce battle within the king's forest. Despite initial panic when facing Thauglor and attempting to deter Azun from attacking, Jorunhast was pardoned, and relations between him and the king improved. Following the death of King Azun III, his young son Raigerd ascended to the throne under the regency of Azun III's brother, Salamber. However, in 1286, Salamber conspired to eliminate Raigerd and seize power, plunging Cormyr into civil strife. During a confrontation, Jorunhast intervened to protect Raigerd, ultimately slaying Salamber. Despite Raigerd's gratitude for saving his life, the mage faced exile for his act against a member of the royal family. In exile, Jorunhast erected the Tower of Stars on Traitor's Isle, situated in Prespur on the Sea of Fallen Stars. He eventually settled in Seros, joining the ranks of the Dukars. Caioatara also served as a member of the Dukars of Nantar during the year 1370. Described as a free spirit, Caioatara rejected the traditional norms of her Shalarin society, opting instead for a path of independence and self-determination. Despite the expectations of her upbringing, which suggested she was destined for a prominent position within Shalarin society, she believed her true calling lay with the Dukars and the Nantarn alliance. Born and raised within the confines of Nantar, Caioatara's upbringing cultivated her strong sense of individuality. Consequently, she became one of the inaugural members of the Order of Malar among the Dukars. Radom's origins trace back to the ancient era of Jimari Dukars, dating to the fall of Nantarum in -220. Following these tumultuous events, he found himself inexplicably transformed into a coral statue located within the confines of the city's Colosseum. In the year 1370, Radom experienced a miraculous revival, reawakening to the world after centuries of dormancy. Swiftly acclimating to the contemporary era, his primary objective became the revival of his long-lost order, aided by Kos. Despite his youthful appearance, reminiscent of an elf, Radom's 1,000 years of isolation have left an indelible mark on his spirit, imbuing him with a profound sense of age and wisdom. Tu'uakol served as a Dukar affiliated with the Order of Kupov. Born in the year 1313, Tu'uakol underwent training as a Dukar under the guidance of Kos and other mentors within Katoris. He was subsequently dispatched as a covert operative to various Merfolk territories. Around 1349, he intervened to rescue Vamos from a perilous encounter with a group of sharks in Sahuagin, an act that forged a deep bond between them despite opposition from King Ator IX and his court. Tu'uakol and Vamos became blood brothers, with Tu'uakol assuming the role of advisor to Vamos and tutor to numerous royal princelings. He was characterized by his unwavering integrity and commitment to his vows, particularly those forged with Vamos and his Dukar leader, Gaiar. He harbored a fervent desire for Merfolk to harness the power of wizardry. Additionally, Tu'uakol closely monitored Arena, whom he regarded as the chosen star prophesied by Kos and a vital figure in the restoration of the lost order of Jimari. As of 1369, governance of the city fell under the purview of the Nantarn Council, comprised of 9 members who asserted the existence of 12 seats. A significant issue within the council was the perceived discrepancy in effort among its members, with some nominating prominent leaders while others appear less committed, raising doubts about their dedication to the council itself. Each council member represents a distinct aquatic race. Roaum, a Lokath ranger and sub-chief of the Tiger Coral tribe, held a position on the Nantar Council during the late 14th century. The son of Chief Kuvis, he maintained a long-standing friendship with Prince Mirol of the Merfolk. By 1370, he occupied the Lokatha seat on the Nantarn Council. However, he rarely contributed to discussions, offering insights only when prompted. He harbored a disdain for political deliberations, focusing instead on matters relating to kelp cultivation, fish hunting, and winter food storage, aligning with the priorities of his fellow Lokatha. Rena held the title of Merfolk Princess within the confines of Nantar, belonging to the Merfolk Homor clan. Rena occupied the 7th position in line of succession to the throne of Yadral. Born in 1354 to King Vamas, Rena in her youth was largely disregarded as a spirited mermaid. After the 12th Seros War, she was appointed as the representative of her people to the Nantarn Council. She excelled in this role and also assisted her elder brother in matters of state, while Voalidru remained under hostile occupation. During her leisure time, Rena engaged in teaching Merfolk songs to the whales and learning their songs in return. Being of the bloodline of Selena endowed Rena with the ability to communicate with whales. Despite being perceived as a prominent figure in Seros, her true aspiration lay in becoming a renowned bard. Vualdia served as a Dukar within the Order of Malir and held a position on the Nantarn Council as the Morkoth member. Vualdia's demeanor was characterized by strict conservatism, staunchly believing her opinions to be absolute truths. Displaying arrogance and a combative nature, she frequently referenced obscure pieces of forgotten knowledge known only to her. She exhibited a complete lack of willingness to compromise. However, despite these traits, some counselors would find themselves persuaded by her logical arguments. Morgan Ildasser, an aquatic elf, assumed the role of captain of the High Mage's Guard in Selkie and also held membership on the Nantarn Council. Morgan possesses a temperament marked by irritability and excessive pride. He holds reverence solely for individuals wielding power and martial skill. Consequently, within the council, his decisions are influenced primarily by Nalos and the Shalarin Riola Kirk. He harbors intense animosity towards the Lusos clan. Riola Kone held the esteemed position of 22nd Iedar, governing the nation of Asaram beneath the Sea of Fallen Stars, alongside his membership in the Nantarn Council. His complexion was gray, distinguished by a white marking on his forehead and red stripes adorning his dorsal fin, denoting his affiliation with the Shalarin ruler's caste. Despite his advanced age and frail health, as of 1370, at 241 years old and 125 in power, Riola Kone remained mentally sharp, though physically feeble, bearing deep wrinkles and a drooping dorsal fin. Despite his infirmity, Riola Kone's intellect remained keen, and he maintained a clear understanding of the boundaries of his authority. He possessed an astute perception of the political maneuverings among the Shalarin. Within the Nantarn Council, he assumed the role of mediator and facilitator. His decision to align Asaram with the Nantarn Council met resistance from the 4 Shalarin kings who shared power with Riola Kone, sparking internal dissent in the empire. Upon the death of his heir, Riola Sur, during the 12th Seros War, Riola Kone designated Riola Kirk as his successor. Surprisingly, he fostered a friendship with Gaiar, to the astonishment of many, particularly among the Shalarin. Assuming the mantle of Iedar in the year of Pain, 1245, his decision to relocate Nantar in 1369 stirred upheaval and conspiracy. Despite this, his intention was to provide unwavering support to the alliance. Tragically, he fell victim to poisoning on green grass of 1370 within his palace at Usrok. Nalos, hailing from Pumanath, assumed the role of the Triton Centurion within the 6th Squad stationed in Abydos, and also served as the member of the Nantarn Council. Initially, Nalos harbored doubts regarding his mission and position. However, by 1370, he had grown to appreciate the shallower waters. His primary concern revolved around his brother's welfare, following the latter's acquisition of the Claw of Zenacht. Nevertheless, reassurance from his contacts among the Dukars allayed his apprehensions. Regularly, Nalos dispatched reports to his emperor via Hippocampus courier, detailing the progress of the council. Ferom Ildasser, the most senior surviving aquatic elf high mage in Nantar during the mid-14th century, held membership in the Nantarn Council. Ferom ascended to the rank of high mage in 1341, following the acceptance of new students by his mentors, the high mages Taranath Reef Glamour and Irlem Tide Dark. In 1370, Ferom sanctioned the settlement of Malenti in Nantar. Despite enduring the disdain of his cousin Morgan Ildancer, Ferom recognized the necessity of diplomacy. Intrigued by the magic wielded by the Dukars, he initiated a spell exchange with Lashir Merdrim to broaden their respective knowledge bases. Ferom also took charge of designing the Temple of Deep Sashelas in Nantar, contributing to the implementation of magic aimed at fostering the growth of coral into elegant spiraling towers and minarets. Tuolasara served as a Dukar within the Order of Malar and held a position on the Nantar Council. Originating from Yisbol, Tuosalara belonged to the Shalarin wanderer caste. During a journey, she found herself swept into a rogue current that carried her towards the Great Barrier. Rescued by the Dukar, she subsequently joined their ranks. Tasked with operating clandestinely as a Dukar agent in Esrath, she undertook the mission of gathering extensive knowledge and lore from the region. Tagar Lusos, a sea elf Dukar affiliated with the Order of Numos, also held membership on the Nantar Council. Despite harboring an irrational animosity towards Morgan Ildasser, Tagar proved to be a proficient counselor, advocating on behalf of the inhabitants of eastern Seros, including the Lokatha, Shalarin, and Katoris Morkoth communities. The Jimhari Dukar seat remains unoccupied as there are currently no Jimhari students or instructors within the council. The God seat also remains vacant, symbolizing the council's acknowledgement that all sea deities oversee its proceedings and are invited to take their place at any time. As an underwater city, Mithnantar's architecture doesn't incorporate stairs. Instead, access to upper levels is facilitated through trapdoors or openings intentionally left for that purpose. Ground-level infrastructure like roads is minimal, as movement between locations primarily occurs through swimming. Glass windows are rare except on the most imposing edifices. Typically, buildings feature shutters that can be closed for added privacy. Given the propensity for small objects to be carried away by water currents, most items within a building are stored in chests or containers to prevent their displacement. The city is divided into quarters by wide thoroughfares extending north, south, east, and west from the central hub, known as the Fire Fountain. These main arteries, namely Chamal Avenue, Hamir's Way, Malarin's Walk, and the street of Ser Ukal, are paved with coral and form intricate mosaics. Situated in the northwest quadrant of the city, the Dukar Quarter is nestled against Mount Halath. It encompasses notable landmarks such as the Dukam Academy, the Keep of Seven Spires, and the Palace of Lenaron. Occupying the northeast section, the Elves Quarter hosts various structures, including libraries, palaces, and villas. It is also home to the temples dedicated to deep Sashelas and Trishina, as well as a park featuring an adjacent villa functioning as a mage school. In the southwest quarter lies the Law Quarter, characterized by taller edifices compared to other areas. Some of these buildings are utilized by the Nantar Alliance. Found in the southeast portion, the Trade Quarter houses the Stadium of Tavinos and Seven Temples Square. In response to the displacement of numerous merfolk from Voalidru and other regions during the 12th Seros War, the spaces beneath the stadium have been repurposed as hospitals and residences. Mithnantar is bordered by two reefs that shape their ecosystem. The Dukam Reef, characterized by crisp coral formations, serves as the habitat for the Dukar Paragon coasts, surrounding the city on three sides. It features arches or gates which facilitate entry and exit. As of 1369, certain structures within the city exhibit collapsed floors, revealing access points to Elven and Dukar tombs. Rumors persist of an undercity that purportedly offers passage to the great dungeons of the Marants, the rulers of Arel Malar. As of 1369, the Mythal in Mithnantar remains fully functional, encompassing a radius around the city's heart. Among its abilities, the Mythal produces a breathable water environment suitable for both air and water-breathing creatures. Despite this, individuals still need to swim as they would in regular water. Over the course of about a month, air-breathing creatures gradually transform into water-breathing beings, developing gills on their necks. However, upon leaving the water, they can immediately revert back to breathing air. Furthermore, the Mythal bestows various enhancements to Elves within its confines, including increased strength and vitality. It offers protection from frigid temperatures, enhances underwater vision, promptly stops all wounds from bleeding, facilitates swimming through water, and counteracts the typical slowdown experienced when moving underwater. Magically, the Mythal bars entry of certain beings, such as doppelgangers, drow, illithids, Ixizachitl, Koalinth, Mero, Seawolves, and Void Yanoi into the city. Moreover, the Mythal possesses the ability to cure diseases for inhabitants within its radius. It can also cause fallen wood, such as wreckage from shipwrecks, to sink gradually while emitting a faint glow. Additionally, whales and dolphins emit a squeal when coming into contact with the mythal, rendering them intangible. Myth Nantar originated as a modest settlement on the Hamur Plateau, initially simply known as Nantar. Its significance lay primarily in being the birthplace of the Order of Dukars, founded by 4 individuals in -7,130. For millennia, Nantar served as the focal point of the Order's activities, serving as both their headquarters and the hub of their scholarly and cultural pursuits. However, around -3000, a period of rapid expansion prompted the construction of the city's mythal. Merely 2 years following the establishment of the mythal, Myth Nantar commenced trade with Cormonthir on the surface. In -1533, during the Third Seros War among the Merfolk and Shalarin, ongoing for 2 years prior, resulted in Myth Nantar being absorbed into a new independent realm known as the First Kingdom of Hamur. However, the Sea Elves quashed the rebellion brutally in -1531. Subsequently, a 4-year civil conflict, termed the First Dukars War, erupted in -1527 between the Nantari Dukars and the 4 other orders, resulting in the destruction of the Nantari Order school within the city. Nevertheless, it was eventually reconstructed as an academy shared by all the remaining Dukar orders. In -1399, during the Fourth Seros War, a mermaid purloined a potent weapon from a previous conflict stored within the city, intending to employ it against a coalition of Coalinth and Marrow. Disaster struck in the year of Sundered Webs, -339, with the occurrence of Karsus Folly. The mythal of Myth Nantar attracted a catastrophic whirlpool spawned by the chaotic surge of wild magic ensuing from the demise of Mistral, resulting in the destruction of numerous structures within the city. In the year of Fortune's Fair, -238, the Dukar orders of Jemari and Numos endeavored to establish a new Dukar-led kingdom, Nantarum, in the wake of Arel dissolution. They designated Myth Nantar as its capital. However, their plans were met with opposition from the Merfolk of the Hamur Plateau, led by a self-proclaimed king named Riston, who laid siege to the city. 18 years later, a mysterious surge of magical energy emitted by the mythal left the city devastated, with only one survivor found, a sea elf Dukar named Upal Narlis, who had lost his sanity. 30 others were discovered transformed into coral statues. Subsequently, Myth Nantar became the scene of numerous conflicts. During the Draco Rage of 1373, the city faced an onslaught from a coordinated group of berserk dragons, dragon eels, and dragon turtles, among other creatures. Only the intervention of a Shalarin priestess of Umberlee and her Termishan adventuring companion prevented the city's total destruction. Later, following the collapse of Zifu in the nearby Sea of Fallen Stars, Myth Nantar came under attack from the combined forces of Dagon and the Eldest. In the aftermath of the Second Sundering, Myth Nantar once again became a battleground, this time pitting the Red Wizards of Thay against the forces of Termish. This conflict, known as the Assault on Myth Nantar, was driven by the Red Wizards' desire to seize the librarian and its extensive collection of knowledge. The Asathal Finare comprises a diverse assembly of good-aligned aquatic races, venerating the leadership of Deep Sashelas, an elven deity committed to fostering unity among its members. Its name, a shortened version of a longer elven phrase, conveys the concept of those who dwell in the sea under the influence of profound dreams. Their primary objective is to mitigate conflicts among their respective communities. Central to their beliefs is the preservation of underwater habitats, a shared concern among the water-breathing species who constitute the majority of their followers. This pantheon includes all the creator deities of the benevolent aquatic races, along with 2 additional entities. The water lion stands as a mysterious deity of lesser stature. Manifesting as a colossal sea lion, sculpted from water and sustained by a pliant membrane, the water lion exudes an aura of intrigue. It typically radiates joy and playfulness, although occasional bouts of deep melancholy darken his demeanor. In moments of agitation, he adopts a prickly and distant attitude, occasionally resorting to violent outbursts against those who intrude upon his solitude. Only dolphins, sea elves, and paladins may gain audience during such times, but even they must maintain silence until acknowledged. Proficient in the druidic spheres and select arcane disciplines linked to elemental water, abjuration, and enchantment and charm, Water Lion wields formidable arcane power. Although vulnerable to fire, he is impervious to water-based spells, and immune to illusion as well as mind-affecting enchantments. His thunderous roar, a source of personal delight, can momentarily disorient and deafen nearby creatures, occasionally causing spellcasters to forget their prepared incantations. Waterlion roams the plains without a fixed abode, his ethereal presence perpetually traversing the prime-material plane through his avatar. His enigmatic motives inspire many myths, with speculation ranging from quests for a lost child to the search for a divine comrade like Stillsong to whom he feels allegiance. While typically aloof, he exhibits a fondness for music, particularly favoring bards in the presence of his avatar. Gracing personal performances with tokens from the sea, he maintains amiable connections with deep Sashelas, and is occasionally aided by Ben Hadar, the prince of good water creatures. He harbors an intense aversion towards sharks, often engaging them in combat on sight. Sirenita, the revered deity of the Aarakocra, also assumes the role of their patron. Appearing as a female Aarakocra adorned with silver-hued skin and feathers of pink gold, her avatar possesses keen sight extending to a long radius, facilitating her vigilant surveillance skills. Protected by an opal necklace warding off malevolent forces, she commands the ability to summon air elementals and jinn. Immune to aggression from natural avian creatures, she wields the power to manipulate wind currents at will. With a deep fondness for music, she occasionally manifests her avatar solely to revel in the melodies of bards honing their craft. She avidly cultivates friendships with various deities, extending her affections even to human sky gods such as Aquatic. Her bond with Aedri Fenya of the Seldarine is particularly close, leading to speculation about a potential fusion of their divine essence amidst the declining population of Aarakocra. As an advocate for her race's well-being, she aligns herself with Deep Sashelas and other members of the Asathalfinare, fostering alliances to bolster the strength of her people. Lochovas was an ancient megalodon. While little is known about his extensive history, it is clear that he was behind the numerous devastating attacks on coastal cities and was the catalyst for the 12th Seros War. In his human form, Lochovas appeared as a handsome, lean, muscular man, heavily tattooed and with long hair. To other Sephuagin, he seemed like one of their own. In truth, he was a sinister wereshark. Regardless of his appearance, he was always missing an eye. Many legends and myths of the undersea peoples mention Lochovas, but the Lokatha stories are the most detailed. According to Lokatha legend, Lochovas emerged from the sea in human form at the start of the Days of Thunder, seeking another like himself. He questioned the gods of Toril about their design, and the gods, intrigued by the solitary mortal, answered him. He soon returned to the sea, realizing he was entirely unique. He then traveled with Sekolah until Sekolah freed the first Sephuagin from a giant clamshell. In Sephuagin legend, he is known as the one who swims with Sekolah. All legends agree that during this period, Lochovas searched for love and acceptance to end his loneliness. He eventually caught the attention of Umberlee, who was fascinated by this mortal with a thirst for adventure. Umberlee, who was gentler at that time, fell in love with Lochovas, and he loved her in return, having finally found what he sought. She bestowed many gifts upon him, including precious metals, stones, and godlike abilities, granting him power and immortality. As life began to develop on land, Lochovas wanted these creatures to love him as Umberlee did. He set foot on land again, and what would become known as Chult. Using his new powers, he conquered the land and built a massive palace. While Umberlee was away on other planes, Lochovas would return to the palace, inciting wars between neighboring kingdoms and stealing their mages' magical treasures. He became greedy, embodying gluttony, and earned the title of Taker. His harem numbered in the hundreds, but Umberlee didn't care as long as he truly loved her. Unsatisfied, Lochovas pretended to fall in love with one of his harem members to make Umberlee jealous and gain more attention. In her youthful naivete, Umberlee believed his feelings to be real and killed the woman. Lochovas was thrilled by Umberlee's reaction, thinking he now controlled her. He didn't realize how truly hurt Umberlee was, and paid for his mistake with his left eye, which Umberlee tore from his skull before leaving him in his palace. Not willing to kill him, but too hurt to stay, Umberlee left for good. Lochovas brooded for thousands of years before scouring the world for magic items to use for revenge against the god. When Lochovas attempted to attack Umberlee, he greatly overestimated his abilities and resources. Umberly shattered his bones, spilled his blood, and believing him dead, scattered his magical items across the seas of Faerun. However, she did not account for the recently ended War of Three Leaves, which led to Elves migrating to the Inner Sea, where they discovered some of Lehobas's powerful weapons. She nearly succeeded in driving the Elves from their newfound underwater home, but ultimately fell short. The Elves found a part of Lehobas's most powerful item, a magical eye that had once replaced his missing one. This piece was stored in Nantar just as the city's mythal was erected, but was lost during the 10th Seros War, when the Sephuagin killed the city's last defenders. It was said that once powerful enough, he would attack one of the great cities of the land dwellers, which turned out to be Waterdeep. Naros explained that Lehobas's attack on Waterdeep was to retrieve an ancient magical talisman to bind the Sephuagin to his cause and claim the sea. 650 years later, a Malenti priestess named Laquil, following ancient clues about the one who swims with Sekolah, discovered a series of magma tunnels under the seabed northeast of Chult. Inside, she found an emaciated, one-eyed, heavily tattooed human. Mistaking her for a thief, but confident in his power, he spared her life so that she could help restore him to his former glory. Holding her life in his hands, he forced her to spend 2 years explaining Sephuagin politics and everything she knew about the world. He then transmuted himself into a Sephuagin hatchling and had Laquil place him into her village's hatchery. He grew to adulthood and killed the prince of another Sephuagin settlement in a duel. Laquil's baron, Wanton, replaced the prince, and Lehobas was named baron of Laquil's village. Wanton, with Lehobas' help, killed the king of the Clartiros Sea and took his place, making Lehobas the new prince. Over the following years, Lehobas and Laquil, his little Malenti, despite her new role as the high priestess in Sephuagin society, worked together to recover many of his scattered magical items. With sufficient wealth amassed, Lehobas began forming alliances, including hiring the pirate king of the Sea of Fallen Stars, Vorgrom the Mighty, and the Morkoth, who were enemies of the Sea Devils. The recovered magic items made Lehobas even more powerful, though he still kept his plan secret from his favorite servant. With his allies and influence over King Wanton, a massive army of undersea monsters and pirates launched an attack on Waterdeep in 1369, a plan that had taken 3 years to prepare. The 12th Seros War was a pivotal event in the Sea of Fallen Stars in the year 1369, marked by the havoc wrought by Lobos the Ravager, a formidable shark entity. The conflict officially commenced on Eldasong 21, as Lobos and his Sephuagin forces breached a significant settlement of the Sharksbane Wall, resulting in the destruction of Achanmir. Vemas was the Merfolk king of Adral and Nantar. Born in 1302, Vemas governed for 35 years of tranquility until the onset of the war, when his son, Prince Vemas the Bastard, formed an alliance with Lehobas. The Leviathan swiftly forged alliances with the Morkoth inhabitants of Oleth, the Merfolk dwelling in Thorindru, and the Coelant tribe of the Sea Hulks, launching assaults on the Zedran reefs. In response, the Morkoth from Katoris allied with the Shalarin from Esroth, Tritons from Vuvox, and Merfolk from Voalidru. However, conflict arose when Lehobas eventually launched an assault on Eadral, compelling Vemas to confront his son in battle. Yet the two Merfolk reconciled and united forces against Lehobas, aided by Prince Gian. Despite managing to shatter his trident, the creature slew the two younger Merfolk and wounded King Vemas. Remaining conscious momentarily, he directed his people to retreat towards Nantar. He then designated his son Mirol as the heir and instructed him to join the Nantar alliance in order to thwart Lehobas. Upon reaching the city, Vemas fell into a coma and remained unconscious, showing few signs of awakening. The Sephuagin perpetrated a devastating attack in Esroth, resulting in the demise of many unhatched Shalarin, provoking the fury of the Shalarin in Asaram and drawing them into the war. Subsequently, Lehobas employed magic to transform the entire populace of the Wamite Isles into zombies under his command. Avina, Lakuan, and Voalidru swiftly succumbed to his onslaught. In retaliation, Ixizachitls from the Zedran Reefs decimated 3/4 of the Coelant army. The coalition of benevolent races, collectively known as the Nantarn Alliance, assembled at Zadier and Nantar. The Merfolk of Zadier suffered significant losses in their efforts to lure Lehobas and his forces towards Nantar for a planned ambush, causing his army to fragment and become trapped against the defenders of the city. The conflict culminated in Rome Song 23 of 1439, when the High Mages of Nantar conjured a whirlpool gate, banishing the Leviathan into the outer sea. However, victory came at a cost, with numerous surface ships destroyed and the loss of 2 High Mages. Not much information is known regarding Seros since the aftermath of the war. However, the kingdoms of the good-aligned aquatic races appear to be on a path of deeper cooperation and integration in order to defend against the myriad threats that lurk in the depths of the Sea of Fallen Stars. Despite this newfound need for cooperation, the politics of the deep sea remain complex and often incomprehensible to surface dwellers, with many factions and entities seeking primacy. Yet for those willing to navigate the strange environment and politics, the sea offers unfathomable wealth and power in the Forgotten Realms.